about it. You got something right now?
Have cameras and stuff?
So now I have cameras and security system.
I didn't want to put cameras on. We have an alarm system.
So it's kind of cool. I can see exactly when my landscaper comes over.
See when they come in your garage and drink your beer.
Is my card in this? What's that?
Microphones.
Yeah, turn their microphones on. Well, hi Marta. I'm so happy to see people here. Thank you for coming. Whenever you're ready, Abraham. Okay, the staff's ready. Are you ready? Okay, we will call this meeting to order Thursday, September 28th at 6:02 p.m. Call the meeting to order. Verification of agenda posting, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Agenda was posted on Friday, September 22nd at 5:25 p.m.
Thank you, Abraham. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have swearing in of new commissioners. I guess I could introduce Pauline Valdivia is going to replace your replacement for Johnny Rosa, correct? And Seth Munzer is replacing Chris Alvarez. They're going to be sworn in tonight. Am I right on that? Yeah.
Well, we've actually.
Did they do it already?
Yeah,
well,
we
excuse
sworn in
me.
before the meeting.
So that's already done. I'm sorry. Roll call, please.
Here.
Gabriel Torres. Here. Carol Lenore.
Present.
Pauline Valdiva.
Here.
Seth Munzer.
Here.
Okay, the next item we have is approval of minutes for June 22nd and June 29th. Do we have any corrections or additions to either one of those meetings?
I'm fine with the minutes.
Okay, having no corrections or amendments or additions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
If I may, Madam Chair, I would like you to abstain.
Okay, Pauline's going to abstain.
I'll have to abstain. I was absent for both instances.
I think you can still vote even though you're absent, correct, Soren?
Oh, really?
Yes. Maybe you could abstain, but I think if you're absent, because you weren't on yet,
No, I wasn't on that.
I think you're okay if you want to choose so. I was corrected when I said that before.
I'll abstain.
So anyway, I'll entertain. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the June 22nd and the June 29th meeting minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Abstain.
With one abstention. Okay, so this is the time when we announce we have communications from the public for items not listed on the agenda. This is a time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda, but within the subject matter of the Planning Commission. When the Planning Commission calls your name, please come forward to the podium, state your name, and speak to the Commission. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. Please note that state law prohibits the Planning Commission from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Okay, so we're going to start public hearings. We're starting off public hearing with a minor subdivision.
Madam Chair, can I just intro for just a minute?
Yes.
We received a request a little while ago, and it's up to the commission to move, if possible, one of the new business items.
Okay.
This new business items number 1 on the agenda.
Alrighty.
To before the public hearings, if that is possible. Therefore, they wouldn't have to wait till all the public hearings go forth before this new business item. It's up to the commission.
Does the commission have any problem with switching the fertilizer business request? And it's a discussion of potential fertilizer land use business within a new building, at the industrial business park.
I'm fine with that.
Does anybody have any problem with shifting that? Okay, so we will go ahead then and entertain our first item of new business for a potential land use business within a new building in Industrial Drive.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Good evening. The staff received an inquiry a few weeks ago, and we made a memo and put it in as part of your packet. Essentially, the request was to provide a potential use in the Industrial Business Park zoning district, which is close to the airport, for a fertilizer land use. Currently, the Hollister Municipal Code does not permit fertilizer use in the Industrial Business Park. It allows it as a conditional use permit in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. However, the Industrial Business Park, which is really adjacent to the M1, it is not permitted in that zone. And the main reason for that is because the city wanted to stay away from, in the Industrial Business Park, a fertilizer use that would be like an open yard fertilizer use that would be exposed to the public's view, that would create odors potentially. So the city didn't want to have that use in the Industrial Business Park, because the Industrial Business Park is more for businesses related to industries, but more of offices with warehousing and so forth, and not necessarily open yards. And in this particular case, that can create potential odors. And fertilizer, it can be also potentially seen as hazardous and potentially create explosions. So when the zoning ordinance was created to reflect or to correspond to the 2005 general plan, this was one of the main reasons why fertilizer use was not permitted in the Industrial Business Park, and yes, in the M1 Light Industrial District. However, this request comes from a potential buyer on a property who would like to actually build a new building for office use, and actually build a warehouse and store all fertilizer use within the warehouse. There will be a section, and according to our conversations with the potential buyer, of an open area with the roof open-sided to have outdoor storage, but it would be contained on bags and or tanks. They are working on providing a material safety data sheet that basically shows that it will not be hazardous or will not be explosive. They're going to be working with the Hollister Fire Department on that to make sure that that's not the case. And also regarding odors, they will mitigate that by bagging all of the potential fertilizer in bags and also in tanks. Additionally, they propose to screen any outdoor tanks or bags with proper screening from public view. So we believe as staff that meets the intent of a proposal for it to be okay in the Industrial Business Park, even though it's a fertilizer use. If it was open to the public, if it was a yard similar to like Z-Best going to Gilroy, then that would not be permitted in the Industrial Business Park, only in the M1 zoning district. So at this time, we are requesting from the Planning Commission a consensus. If you also agree that the use would be, even though fertilizer use it says not permitted, but that it does meet the intent of the Industrial Business Park because it's going to be in a new building. It's going to be warehouse property. If you feel that it does meet the intent, then the applicant will move forward with their application, and they will come back before you for a Saturn architectural for the new building and for a conditional use permit for the land use. The applicant has stated that they are currently working out of Gonzales, and this would be a good prime facility for them, a good location for them, and they will have approximately 30 employees. So with that concludes our memo, our report. Do you have any Any questions for staff?
It says here that minimal odor from the storage and loading of chicken pellets is anticipated. However, odor is mitigated by storing the product. So it's an anticipated odor, but it's going to be totally mitigated?
Correct. So they will be storing it in
Bags.
in bags. Yes,
And there's no odor.
correct. And the applicant is actually here,
Okay.
and they can address that as well if you.
So if we go ahead and the consensus of the commission is to allow that as a conditional use permit, you're going to come up with some contingencies to, in the zoning code that will address the mitigation measures.
That's correct, Commissioner Huboy, and the plans will also show how they're going to be storing the product, and it should all be consistent to what would be allowed in the in the industrial business park.
Will you bring that back to us, that classification then of this as being allowed use as is a conditional use permit based on that verbiage?
We will provide it to you if pending your consensus today, if the applicant moves forward, which they've anticipated and indicated yes, we'll provide it to you as form of a Saturn architectural and conditional use permit application.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
Abraham, would there be any monitoring measures put in place to make sure that there's no changes to the types of fertilizers that were originally approved and then, let's say, potentially changed within a year for those types of products, or how does that?
That's a good question, Commissioner Torres. That definitely would be a part of a condition of approval that we can definitely add to that, making sure that the use stays as it proposed.
Right.
And yes, if any changes occur, then the conditional use permit can be revoked, and they would have to apply to a different location. That absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
So you're actually going to amend the section that's will make it a conditional use?
Good question,
of
Madam
the
Chair.
zoning
Lenore.
ordinance?
At this time, we still want to keep fertilizer use as non-permitted in the
Right.
industrial business park, because the actual intent is to not have like a storage
Right.
yard in them.
So case by case basis?
So we will continue to have it not permitted, but we do want to make the for this particular case that even though it's a fertilizer land use, that it will be well suited for the industrial business park, because it's going to meet all of the we'll have findings that indicate that it's going to meet all of the requirements of the industrial business park, because it's going to be stored properly, it's going to be in a
Okay.
warehouse, it's going to be in a new office building.
So we don't necessarily want to talk individual project right now because we don't have that on
Correct.
the agenda.
Correct.
So we're looking for a consensus here to have it proceed as a conditional use permit application. Are we in consensus that that could be possible?
Yes.
Okay? You have your consensus?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
And thank you, Planning.
Unless you wanted to speak, I think we got to where you wanted to be. Thank you very much. Okay. So now we will move on to the public hearings. Minor subdivision 2017-3 and a site and architectural 2017-3. This is Randy Griffith is the applicant. He's requesting a minor subdivision of a 5.55 acre site into 3 lots, consisting of a 3.52 acre, a 1.20 acre, and a 0.83 acre site. Okay. And site and architectural approval for the construction of a 15,900 square foot building on one of the lots consisting of the 1.20 acre site. It's located in the light industrial zoning district. It'll be located at 777 Flynn Road, and the CEQA is categorically exempt. May we have the staff report, please?
Yes, you may. Randy Griffith, the applicant, is requesting to subdivide a 5.55 acre site into 3 separate parcels. Parcel 1 at 3.52 acres, Parcel 2 at 1.20 acres, and Parcel 3 at 0.83 acres, and site and architectural approval for the construction of a 15,900 square foot building on a parcel number 2. The property is located at 777 Flynn Road in the M1 Light Industrial District. Parcel number 1 3.52 acres, is currently all improved. It has an existing 16,403 square foot building. It has bioretention ponds that were designed under the recent construction to accommodate the entire property. Parcel number 2, 1.20 acres, is currently base rock. This is the parcel that is being proposed for the new construction of a 15,900 square foot building. Parcel 3, 0.83 acres, currently base rock. This parcel will remain the same. There is no proposed for any type of improvements as of right now. The proposed floor plan for the 15,900 square foot building consists of 10 individual units of approximately 1,200 square feet and 158 square feet of open space. The proposed metal building will be 20 feet in height, 60 feet wide, and 265 feet in length. The north, south, and west elevations portray aluminum paneling. The east elevation will have an 11 by 12 high overhead door, metal panel roofing, aluminum storefront glazing and entry, and light medium texture plastering. According to the applicant, the 10 individual units will be for rental, each providing ADA-type restrooms, hallways, and office space. Parking. This site will include a total of 40 vehicle parking stalls, including 2 ADA-accessible stalls on asphalt surfaces. The proposed vehicular access driveway will be off of Flynn Road. A fire truck turnaround dedicated space will be constructed at the end of the parking lot. Per table 17.18-1, off-street parking and bicycle space required by land use type. Warehousing required 1 space for every 1,000 square feet of gross floor area plus 1 space for each company vehicle. The required parking for the site will be 16 spaces. The office component of the building would also require 1 space of parking for each 250 square feet of gross area. The required parking will be 6.3 spaces. A total of 22.3 parking spaces will be required, and 5% of total vehicle space will be bicycle designated space. The project meets parking requirements. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and consider approving minor subdivision 2017-3 and site and architectural approval 2017-3, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. Are there any questions for staff?
I do have a question on this, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
For the M1 zone, and I think we may have amended this, but for sites that are over 15,000 square feet, there was a landscape requirement of 15%. And just if you look at Lot 2, where they're building the new building, I don't see any landscaping unless I'm reading the plan wrong.
So that's just the proposed plan, and as you could see, and I mentioned on the staff report, prior to the subdivision of the parcels, when parcel number 3, which is the bigger parcel, was, let me see, I think it's 16,000 square foot building that is existing. They already have all the landscape improvements put in.
If you take the full development.
If you take the full development, correct.
In context, but if you just look at the individual lot that they're subdividing, lot number 2, then the way you're evaluating that is the full context of all 3 sites would comply with the landscape requirement, but not the individual lot number 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, you're creating a separate lot.
That is correct. The applicant is here, and also the engineer.
I would be remiss not to make that comment about the landscaping, because I don't. It's just all impervious coverage on lot 2.
Correct, and that's something that we could put as a condition of approval. My understanding was that the landscape was already put in place.
For that total lot.
For that total lot, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a new building on a separate lot.
But if he sells the lot, you're not going to have any landscaping on lot 2.
Well, there is some landscaping, and there is also the mitigation for the stormwater, which
But
does
it's
the
on a separate lot, once you do the minor subdivision. New owner of a new lot with a new building.
yeah.
should have the requirement of landscape.
And one of the things that, and Ann Hall, she's the engineer, and she could,
Okay.
Are they just going back to the parking then, do they have more than enough parking?
Yes.
Can they possibly
Yes, so the parking
make a revision
requirement,
for landscaping?
the parking requirement for that specific parcel is 22.3, and they're proposing a total of 40 with 2 ADA parking spaces.
Okay, so they could work in some landscaping there.
Absolutely, Madam Chair Lenore and Commissioner Hubo, if that is the desire of the Planning Commission, we could definitely make sure that the property itself provide for the...
What is the current requirement for the M1 zone?
I believe if it's 10,000 square feet or more, it's I think 10% landscaping, and if it's less than 10,000 square feet, I think it's 15%. But there is a requirement that, well, not a requirement, but if 5% of that is used for stormwater management, such as using some of the parking as instead of using cement permeable pavers, then 5% can be reduced.
But their stormwater, that's going off on another parcel besides Lot 2, the runoff, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions before I open the public hearing? Okay, having no other quick questions right now, we'll open the public hearing at 6:21. Do we have any speakers?
We do.
Okay.
Ann Hall.
Okay. Hi, Ann.
Ann Hall with San Benito Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant.
Yeah.
Good evening. And going to your question, David, in regard to the landscaping, actually, even after subdivision, all the parcels have a minimum of 10% landscaping. Right now, there is a required 10-foot buffer on the Caltrans side, and there's a 20-foot setback from Flynn Road. So the combination of the landscape provided in those two areas, plus there's a little bit of landscaping on the property line. The common property line, you see we have the parking setback from Flynn Road a little bit to accommodate some additional landscaping.
So are you saying you can meet the 10% on lot 2?
Yes, what's shown on there is meeting the 10%.
It looked to me that I couldn't tell exactly what was on the frontage.
It's deceptive, particularly on parcel 3, because it's a thin strip around the border, but if you take the square footage, it actually comes out and it meets the 10% requirement.
Okay, as long as you meet that 10%, it's just not clear to me.
So there's a landscaping plan that's going to be submitted after to staff?
Yes, so obviously as part of the building permit process,
Okay.
for parcel 2, they'll have to submit a landscape plan.
Okay.
And the landscaping particularly along the Caltrans side, is already there. That was a requirement of the original
Right.
project development. So,
Just looked like a lot of paving to me.
I have a comment.
yes.
The west side of the building that's fronting Highway 25, Balsa. I don't know. It's so plain, and it's
That's
facing
a
the
2-hour
entrance
wall,
to
though, right? That's a
Hollister.
2-hour fire rated
It's
wall.
on the property line, so it has to be a 2-hour.
It has to be a 2-hour wall. They can't have any openings
Yeah.
on that wall.
But I'm talking about the aesthetics of the long wall that's blank. I like to see a trellis on there, a couple of trellises. It's facing the entrance to town, and it's a big, long brown building.
But it's
The other
tangent.
side looks good.
It's tangent to the property line. They can't have any combustible.
put
They
anything
can't have
on-
any combustible material on that wall because it's tangent to the property line.
Even with the setback, they can't do anything?
Well, if they set it back, they'd have to move it. But right now, it's
Well, we're here for site and architectural, and to
It's
me,
tangent.
that's
I don't know
ugly
if-
coming in.
if you've got your parking and you've got like 26 feet between the stalls there. I don't know if they can move it from the property line.
If
The
nobody
only-
else has a problem with that big, long, blank brown thing.
It's a narrow site. I don't know if they can do that. It might be difficult for them
Alright.
to move it from the property line.
We're creating the property line at this point. So
Or you want to,
So
you're
if
creating
you-
it, you may be able to adjust the property line location.
we can't
that's
really
true.
move the building or the parking, but I think what you're asking, Carol, is maybe could we move the property line over 5 feet and accommodate
Where
I'd
the
like to
property
see
line
something
is,
alongside that big, long building right there. It's the entrance to town.
where the property line is located currently, where you're proposing it, that has to be all non-combustible and no openings on that wall.
No, I know it has to be no openings, and I agree. You're correct. I guess in an effort to potentially
Talking about a trellis.
address
not an
Carol's
opening.
issue
Like the
is
cannery
Right.
building, they
But
put
they,
those things.
but then they would have to move the property line to put a trellis there, Carol.
They're creating a minor subdivision,
Yeah.
so it's very easily
They
done.
can adjust it, yeah. You have to look into that.
Suggestion. I don't know how anybody else feels. Maybe it's not an issue with the majority.
Well, if it's, I share your concern, depending on the visibility of the building, you're gonna be able to see that
'Cause it's
wall
behind
from
the other
Highway
one.
25, you're gonna see it right there unless they can mitigate it on Lot 3 with landscaping.
Yeah, the other
Okay.
alternative is leave the property line where it is and leave the building where it is, but perhaps ask for some landscaping on Lot 3 to be
That's
incorporated.
another,
That would be
yeah.
visual, because Lot 3 will remain
Okay.
between that and the highway,
Okay.
and that's currently undeveloped, but it has the potential to be developed in
I'm
the
not
future.
trying to be difficult. I just like to see a nice product on the highway like that.
I think your point, that's a good point.
Because the other side looks nice, but it's not the west side.
Yeah, there's two ways of doing it: moving the building or moving the property line to put some embellishment on that facade.
So it's something I'd have to discuss with my client
Right.
specifically, but assuming, are you looking for landscape screening, or if they were to have,
I'm looking for some trellis to break up that
Okay.
building.
so you're looking for
And see,
landscaping?
it's a flat roof, right? So there's nothing on top.
Mhm.
So then it's just flat building. There's
Okay.
nothing on it.
You are-
Seems like
yeah.
there should
That's
be
your
some architectural
perfunctory
feature on it.
2-hour fire rated wall. It could be the stucco or it could be metal.
No, there's limitation on the wall, but I think if it is something, I think we'd like to get the project approved tonight, but if
Yeah.
you would like to request, that the property line move over 5 feet and a way to accommodate additional landscaping along that wall, I think that is doable.
Any problem with that, Brian?
No, good
How's
point.
the applicant feel? I don't want to be a stick in the mud.
The applicant is not here,
Okay.
so I can't 100% say.
All right.
But if you want to make it a conditional approval, I can certainly talk to him about it.
If he just flat doesn't like it, we could consider it again,
Okay,
a condition change, but I really like to see something there.
okay.
So there's
Nice
different
one.
ways of going. You can either move the property line, move the building, or have a landscape mitigation, kind of like tall, narrow trees along Lot 3.
Okay. I think if you were to approve it as the requested condition,
Okay.
and like you said, if I go back to him and for some reason
All
it's
right.
a deal breaker, I'll address that with staff and go from there.
So
Talking
can
with
we
the-
word a condition?
Absolutely, and talking with the engineer as well, it can be also the back can also have some relief. Maybe it doesn't have to be a straight line. There can be some relief, and then maybe like soften it with different colors as well.
Okay.
Well, I
there-
guess that was my other question. Are you requesting specifically a landscape visual, or is some type of articulation or color an acceptable?
Landscape.
You want landscape, okay. All right.
I don't
Think
see
it'll look better.
how a trellis would look on a wall without any windows. I don't think
Well,
that.
the cannery
yeah.
did it, and it looked better.
You like that?
It's better than a big
But-
plank industrial wall.
Put some bougainvillea
Yeah,
vines
well,
on it?
They put those trellises, and then they planted those
Okay.
nice
Okay,
perilous
yeah.
trees,
All right.
fruit trees.
I'm open to something on that.
All right.
Any other questions?
I have a question, if I may. In terms of access to the project, for the folks to get in there, is it off of 25, or is there, how folks are going to get to the?
It's off Flynn Road. The access would be from Flynn Road. So they'd turn from
Okay.
25 onto
Yeah.
Flynn, and then the driveway is actually on Flynn.
It'll be off of 25?
No, it'd
Flynn.
be off of Flynn.
Flint Road, okay.
Yeah.
There's a non-access strip along
Yeah,
25.
25
so-
is terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, okay.
That's a good point, Commissioner Lenore. I appreciate that.
Junior architect, I'm
Yeah.
learning from you.
I'll have to hire you.
Okay, any other comments from the public? Okay, so having no other comments, we'll close the public hearing at 6:29 and bring it back to the commission level for any further comments, questions? Okay, we don't have any, so I'm going to entertain a motion on the first resolution, PC 2017 dash. This is going to be for the
18.
minor subdivision first, correct? Number
18.
18.
Excuse me, PC resolution number was 2000.
17. I was just getting the number for you, so I'll
The-
entertain a motion.
We've got a minor subdivision.
And then a site and
And
architectural.
then a site and architectural.
That's a separate vote,
2017-3 minor subdivision.
right?
The PC resolution
18.
number would be
17-18.
2017-18. Okay. I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt PC resolution 2017-18 and approve minor subdivision 2017-3 with the
Okay.
findings.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve PC Resolution 2017-18 for minor subdivision 2017-3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. And we have another resolution.
I'll make
Anybody?
the motion to adopt PC resolution number 2017-19,
19.
right?
Yes.
And approve site and architectural application 2017-3 with the condition that the applicant add some articulation to the wall tangent to the property line as discussed.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve PC Resolution 2017-19 with the discussed amendment to the condition there. Additional condition for site and architectural 2017-3. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do I have to point out nay or just when it's unanimous? I don't have to say that part.
If there's
If there's objection, then we do.
counsel,
For the record, it's always better
And
to,
how do I word that? Because I always seem to forget that.
it's just that the
All
motion
those in
is,
favor say aye.
the motion was passed unanimously.
Yeah, okay. But if there's a nay vote, I have to call that out, right?
Then you can say 3 are in favor and 2 voted against.
Okay. All
it
right,
seems
so
like we're all
motion
in
passed.
favor, right? Okay.
And if you'll relay to the applicant for me, we appreciate them bringing their business here very much, and I wish them luck on their project. We wish them luck. Okay, next item. Public hearing number 2. We have a minor subdivision, 2017-4, and a conditional use permit for a planned unit development, 2000-15, and a site and architectural, 2017-4, for a Mr. Jim Moreno. He's requesting a minor sub and conditional use permit for a planned unit development and an S&A approval for the construction of a 3,220 square foot, 2-story residential condominium building with 3 residential units on approximately 0.18 acre site. It's located in the neighborhood mixed use zoning district. It'd be located at 0 Pine Street, South Street between Sally and West, and McRae to the east. And it is categorically exempt from CEQA. May we have the staff report?
The applicant is requesting site and architectural approval 2017-4 for the construction of 3 condominium residential units on a 0.18 acre site in the neighborhood mixed-use zoning district. Conditional use permit 2017-5 for a planned unit development for condominiums. Conditional use permit 2017-16 for a waiver of minimum density and a minor subdivision 2017-4. The site plan illustrates that the project will include landscaping, private open space, common open space, a driveway access from Pine Drive. The residential condominium building will consist of 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, attached units. Each condominium unit will have its own laundry facility. The building will be 2 stories tall with a maximum of 23 feet 10 inches. The elevation illustrates composition roof and stucco. The units will have 2.5 foot setback to the west, 20 foot setback to the east. The structure will have setback to the north of the property of 10 feet from the south property line consistent with section 17.08.050 of mixed-use zoning district supplemental standards. Parking. The site plan illustrates a driveway access on Pine Drive to the west. Per section 17.18.060, number of parking spaces required multifamily housing requires 1.5 spaces for every 1 to 2 bedroom units. 2 spaces are required for each unit with 3 or more bedrooms. Guest parking will require 1 space per every 4 units. The project will require bicycle parking at 10% of vehicle space. The residential condominium building will consist of 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms. The project is proposing 9 parking spaces. The project meets parking requirements for condominium and guest parking. Open space. The applicant is proposing common open space and private open space for each condominium unit. The ground floor unit will have approximately 930 square feet of private open space as fenced yard towards the south property line. Per section 17.04.040, multifamily residential general development standards, each unit should have at least 64 square feet of private open space when it's provided by a deck or a balcony, at 100 square feet when it's provided at ground level. For common open space, the project is proposing 1,320 square feet of common open space along with an amenity. The project complies with open space requirements. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimonies regarding the proposal, and consider approving Site and Architectural 2017-4, Conditional Use Permit 2017-15 for a planned unit development, Conditional Use Permit 2017-16 for a waiver of minimum density, and Minor Subdivision 2017-4. Subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. Are there any questions for staff?
I don't. Any other questions? So we'll open the public hearing at 6:37. Do we have any speaker cards?
We do. Ann Hall.
Okay, Ann.
Ann Hall, on behalf of the applicant. And I did have a couple questions on a couple of the conditions. Condition 14 under the site and architectural requires a check. I was curious if you knew how much that check was for. It doesn't say the amount.
Yes, it's because it's considered infill and exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. There is no need for an environmental impact report or mitigated neg deck. So we are required to file with the recorder's office. And as last time we checked with them for a notice of exemption from CEQA, it's $50 payable to San Benito County Recorder's Office.
Okay, that's fine. Conditions under the site and architectural, condition 32, it talks about employees and customers. This is not a commercial development. I think that should say residents and guests, which is what it says in other places for similar conditions. But oh, okay, you already have those up there. I'm sorry, Christian.
Yeah, so I was going to go to that point next. There's a couple changes to the conditions. So the first will be for the site and architectural condition 32, as Ann Hall mentioned. It should say residential and guest instead of employees and customers. And there's also a change to some of the setbacks. The setback for the north edge of the building should be 5 feet, not 25.5, as the property is L-shaped. And the setback for the west edge will be 2.5 instead of 10.
That's on the site plan, correct?
Correct.
It's not a condition.
It is a condition
What number is
under
it?
the conditional use permit 2017-15, condition number 6.
And which, is that for the site and architectural?
No, that's for the conditional use. That's for the conditional use permit.
CUP, okay.
The west edge, then, that would be, we're looking at the site plan. It's building on the left-hand side.
Correct, facing Pine Drive.
Is there any other public comment?
None other.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to commission level for questions.
I think that relating to the conditional use permit for the waiver of the density, in the discussion that they're in the Southwest Creole zone, if they go to 4 units, then they have to do all this trenching. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner
Or
Hubert.
keeping it at 3?
That's why it's keeping it at 3, because
We
if it,
discussed it before.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Previously, it was discussed that yes, that the
We
minimum
agreed
density would
that
be.
okay.
That is correct.
But-
That is
but
correct.
We're taking action on this conditional use permit for the waiver of the density.
Mm-hmm.
And for the actual construction of the building as well, of the 3 units.
Around a question on the setbacks that are proposed here. Do those also, not only with the zoning that's existing, but does that also take into consideration the surrounding uses? Because I know the cannery is usually stacking pallets of cans several high.
That's correct.
Around that site.
Yes.
Is that taken into consideration when the actual structures are away from that property line?
That's correct, Commissioner Torres. One thing that we, because it's a neighborhood mixed-use zoning district, and the cannery is in the vicinity, and it's an existing use. It is the area changed zoning from industrial to neighborhood mixed use. However, the cannery is going to continue operation, and that's fine. However, one thing that the neighborhood mixed use zoning setbacks have is 0, because neighborhood mixed use allows for both residential and commercial as part of the same building, either having commercial on the bottom, residential on top, or side to side. One thing that we would like to add, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea, especially bringing up your comment, Commissioner Torres, is the setbacks as proposed are okay, subject to review and approval by the building code, because that takes precedence. The building code setbacks takes precedence. So we just want to make sure that the applicant would understand because the building code is the building code, and we have to respect it. But we can add a blurb in the condition indicating as permitted by the Uniform Building Code.
Okay.
Going back to the setbacks, you've got the 2.5 feet. That's the property line to the wall, right? On the left-hand side, what's the setback required for the right-hand side?
The requirement, Commissioner Huey, because this is neighborhood mixed use, my understanding that it's at 0, but the Uniform Building Code takes precedence. So if it's life safety, we want to make sure that it has a proper setback.
Now I know that we as Planning Commission doesn't really get into building code issues too much,
Correct.
but I will bring this out.
Yeah.
Is that you have an issue on the left wall. If you go to lower floor plan sheet 2, you've got windows on the family room and an opening. That's not going to be permitted. You're going to have to bring that building back to at least 5 feet. That's going to be a comment when that's submitted for a building permit. I just wanted
Thank you for bringing that
to
up.
take a heads up to the applicant that they're going to have to make a revision to that.
Thank you for bringing it up, Commissioner Huboy. The plan has been reviewed by our Development Review Committee, and which is made up from different departments of the City of Hollister, even some from the County of San Benito. And one of the members of the Development Review Committee is Greg Johnson, who's the building official. And so he has taken a look, and I'm sure that he has, if that's the case, we'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
And
have to move back at least 5 feet.
yeah, and I'm sure that he will provide that. Pending your approval today, they will have to submit to the building department for building permits, as one of the conditions states, and that would be addressed.
Yeah, but that's why I asked about the setback on the right, because if you can just shift the building to the right a little bit more, I think that could be a possible solution.
Very well.
Okay.
Point well taken.
Any other questions? Okay, let me just get this straight on the resolutions, because there's 4 of them. Did you want the reduced development density, the first one?
Yes, please.
And then we'll proceed with the minor subdivision? And then we'll have the conditional use permit for the PUD? And then last, we'll wrap it up with the site and architectural for the condominium development? Does that
Perfect.
sound right?
That sounds correct.
Okay.
I'm ready to make a motion on this CUP then. That's first
So-
on the agenda for this. What's the PC
20.
resolution number on that?
20.
20? I'll make a motion to adopt PC resolution 2017-20 and approve conditional use permit 2017-15, the waiver of the density.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution PC 2017-24, conditional use permit 2017-16. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, moving on to,
I thought you said nay there for a
well,
second.
well, I have to, in case somebody's,
Yeah. Okay.
I know there's something to it. Okay, we have the next one, PC resolution 2017 it's gonna be 21. This is for the minor subdivision 2017-4 to subdivide a 0.1 acre site into 3 individual lots.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and make the motion to adopt PC resolution 2017-21 and approve minor subdivision 2017-4 with the findings in the draft resolution.
Okay, thank you, David. And we have a motion and a second to approve PC Resolution 2017-21 for minor subdivision 2017-4. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passes unanimously.
And for the site and architectural PC resolution 2017-22
22.
and approve site and architectural 2017-4 with the noted changes in condition 32. And what other one? 6?
We had a 14, oh, that was yesterday. It was the CUP. So we only had the 32 and 6.
And 6.
And do we have, when, does the setbacks come up towards the SNA? The one that you were saying?
Well, yes,
Or
I'd
we're
like to
gonna
make
check
it,
it
I'd
out
like to make
first.
it noted
Okay.
that the, there's gonna have to be an adjustment to the location of that building.
That's actually in the on this one, conditional use permit
So it
for
is
planning
that
and
one.
development. Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna add a condition
Very well.
for
And
that.
a condition to make it compliant with building code setback requirements,
Okay.
because it's not in compliance as it is.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second for resolution PC 2017-24 for conditional use permit 2017-15 with the amendment of condition number 14 for the check amount to state $50 and also amendment to 32 for it to reference resident and guest. And then we're going to add a condition to be the subject to be set back, subject to the UBC.
CBC.
UBC. Oh, it's
No,
different?
it's the California Building Code.
Okay, CBC?
Yeah, it's
Hey.
CBC 2016.
Does the UBC not come into play anymore?
UBC is,
Uniform
California
Building
Building Code is taking precedent over.
Okay.
UBC is no longer a
All right.
uniform building code in the state of California.
Hey, I didn't know that. I've been out of the biz for a while. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion passes unanimously with the amended conditions in addition. Okay, we have one more. Anybody? It's for the site and architectural. Oh, I had
Oh,
two
we did-
resolutions. Never
I think
mind.
we did that. We
Yeah, I
finished
had
with
two
it.
copies in my packet. Yeah, I
We're
forgot.
done. We're done with item
We're
number
done, so we're done
2.
with that item. Okay. So we're moving on to item number 3, Dunn Park improvements. The city of Hollister is the applicant. They want us to consider the approval of proposed improvements to Dunn Park to include a skate park with multiple skate park features, including but not limited to fun box, mini grind rail, bench with grind rail, multi-ramp, and a 5-quarter-foot pipe ramp. 5-foot quarter pipe ramp. It's located on Powell Street. West Street and 5th Street and 6th Street.
Madam Chair, if before we have our staff report, I believe this is the time to disclose this, is that I had a discussion today, phone discussion with Jan Schultz, and she had concerns about noise and safety and use at night. And I also received email from Jennifer Lane with the Arts Council, and the email that I received from Jennifer outlined the benefits of improving the park to transitioning it to more of a family-oriented park.
Okay, so look, can we have the staff report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This is a request, as you mentioned, for a site and architectural approval to construct a skate park that would be located at Dunn Park, east of the existing tennis courts, if you're familiar with the Dunn Park area. To put into perspective, the Dunn Park location is located in the older residential core of Hollister. The 4.36-acre park is bound by 6th Street to the north, the rear yard of homes to the south, West Street to the east, and Powell Street to the west. 7th Street bisects the park, as you know, with a square 3.51-acre area north of 7th Street and a 1.21-acre area rectangular portion to the south. The 3.51-acre area is currently developed with tennis courts, a playground, a water-wise demonstration garden in collaboration with the San Bernardino County Water Resources Association, rose garden, barbecue pits, and clubhouse. The park area south of 7th Street is developed with baseball fields. The proposed skate park would be located between the tennis courts and existing walkways within the park in an approximately 53-foot by 136 feet rectangular area. The 5 following features would be constructed as follows, and we have a plan here in the screen, and it was also part of your packet. As you can see, just to the east of the tennis courts, we have A, B, C, D, and E. A is identified as a fun box. Let's see, okay, and to zoom in into the feature, it's a 20-foot width by 27-foot in length and 5-foot in height obstacle for skateboard users. B is denoted as a mini grind rail, is 4 feet wide by 6 feet in length and 2 feet in height. C, denoted as a bench with grind rails, 5 feet in width by 10 feet in length and 3.5 feet in height. D is denoted as a multi-ramp, 22 feet in width, 32 feet in length, and 5 feet in height. And finally, E is denoted as a 5-foot quarter pipe ramp, 12 feet in width by 17 feet in length and 5 feet in height. Skate park features will range in height from 2 feet to 5 feet, as mentioned, and will be constructed primarily of concrete with steel, used only for the coping and rails. The existing lawn will be removed and replaced with a concrete base for these structures. City of Hollister and the San Bernardino County Arts Council partnered for a grant at Dunn Park. Part of the grant will fund a mural on a skate park feature. The grant will also fund sculptural art at another location at the park. Dunn Park is located in the Park Zoning District, P. Properties to the south, north, and west are located within the Old Town Zoning District, and property to the east are located within the Home Office Zoning District. Noise can be an issue, or a fear of noise was identified as a common concern from neighbors about skate parks. The skate park features would be about 200 feet approximately from a residence on 7th Street and over 250 feet from homes on Powell and 6th Streets. The following text is from a public skate park development guide that we would like to share with you. It indicates, one of the earliest and most comprehensive skate park noise studies was conducted by the City of Portland, Oregon in 2001. The chief noise officer for the Portland Sheriff's Department concluded in a report that skateboarding noise was negligible at 50 feet, but that sharp sounds from some tricks like ollies could reach 65 to 71 decibels, about the sound of a bat hitting a ball. Other tricks like grinds could reach between 54 to 65 decibels. A skate park is about as noisy as a playground, and that is from the report that was presented. A condition on the draft resolution requires the hours of operation to be during daylight hours, 7 days a week, and that signs will be posted requiring the proper use of safety equipment. Another condition of approval requires placement of a bike rack close to the facility at a location approved by the Management Services Department of the City of Hollister. And also, there is a condition of approval. As indicated earlier, we met for our Development Review Committee, and part of the committee, we discussed any potential impacts that can be part of the potential projects. And so one of the potential impacts that came that was discussed was the interface between people using or the youth or anybody who's going to be using the skate park and the families and children who are going to be using the playground. So we just felt that can be a potential hazard. If somebody's riding their skateboard and with the interface of kids using the park, that could be a potential hazard. So one of the things that came up at our Development Review Committee was the requirement of the placement of a fence as a potential mitigation measure. And, as people are riding their skateboards, they can ride them pretty fast, and there should be some type of a barrier that's not dangerous that can potentially hold them from crashing right into the fence. And of course, if it's a fence, it would be as decorative as possible, maybe like a tubular wrought iron type of fence. However, one of the things that we would like so the condition actually indicates, condition number 27 in the draft resolution and your packets indicate this requirement for a fence with a landscape buffer. However, we would like to ask the commission, if it moves forward with this pending approval of this project, to also provide the alternative if a fence or another acceptable method as determined by the City of Hollister Police Department in collaboration with the Development Services Department and Management Services Department to provide an interface from the children and families using other park facilities for safety. So you have that condition in your draft resolutions. Since you have it already, we want to make note that that's what you received, but the language in red is basically what we would like to change after discussing this a little bit further. Another topic that was discussed at our Development Review Committee meeting is we want to make sure that there is more surveillance out there pending approval, and so one of the conditions also indicates that pending that everything's okay with by law, where we can expand surveillance, maybe in the form of cameras. That would be also a requirement that we would have more surveillance out there to see the activities that are going on in the area. Police department is also a part of the Development Review Committee, and they express their concerns about things that they see at the current skate park on Memorial Drive, unfortunate things that they see out there, but they did indicate that they try their best to monitor, to surveillance, and they do not feel that if there are the youth and there are the people that use the skate park for the right reason, and they feel that if there are people out there that use it for the wrong reasons, that shouldn't ruin it for the youth, especially who use it for the right reasons. So staff does recommend that the Planning Commission review the request and receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal and consider approving Saturn Architectural Review number 2017-7, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution with the amendment to condition number 27 as stated. Are there any questions for staff?
I have a question, Madam Chair. Yes, going back to that fence. So my understanding then, it would separate the skateboarders from families, as you mentioned. Would also be function as a barrier to keep skateboarders out during night? Because I know that reading the description there, skateboarders would only be using the skateboard area during the day. Is that correct?
Commissioner Huber, that is correct. There is a condition also in the draft resolution that indicates that proper notification in the form of signs shall be posted indicating the hours of where it's allowed to have people in the park, and so
it would be locked during the evening to keep the place free.
Regarding whether it be locked, that's something that we would confirm with management services to see if they would actually go out there and lock it at night. But regardless, that they would not be allowed to be using the park after the hours of that's allowed.
Do you have any idea how high that fence would be?
We will. That's one thing that we would be working. We wanted it to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible. We wouldn't want it just to be a very solid wall. We would want to make sure that it's, if it is determined after review with management services, development services, that a fence would be the best scenario there. Then we were thinking maybe like a 4 foot, maybe 3 feet wall. There's also an option that the actual facilities, the ramps, can be reoriented in the form that as they're using it, as skateboard users are using it, they don't interfere with members of the public, the park area or the tennis areas, that they are reoriented in a way that it can be safely stated that if somebody uses a ramp, that their takeoff speed and their speed after they use the ramp will not be subject to them going to the park area where they could potentially create a conflict with the kids or the families using the park. Another option could be in talking with the Arts Council, Jennifer Lane, possibly having like little seating area around instead of fence, like a seating area around, maybe with there's like items that you could put on these mini benches where they wouldn't be able to grind, but actually just sit, and that would reduce the frequency of skateboarders going over that. So there's things that we can work into placing that barrier.
My concern is at night. I think that has to be addressed, and
correct.
Also the visibility factor. Maybe a tubular steel fence 6 feet high might be worth considering. Just a suggestion.
Very well. Thank you, Commissioner Huber.
Okay, so do we have any other questions before I open the public hearing?
I do. So Abraham, I noticed on the report you guys are referencing a Portland, Oregon report, but I would assume that the design review committee has already looked at real scenarios that have happened over on Memorial. I can recall a number of different articles in the paper regarding the tagging, regarding the fence being destroyed, and I believe there was also some in Gilroy where their skate park was just, vandalized very bad. So instead of a Portland report, have we gone back and looked at the dollars spent to maintain the Memorial Drive park? And the other things I'm thinking of as well is, are we creating a different level of skate park? So is that the beginner park over at Memorial? Are we going to have what's considered maybe a higher skill level? Are we going to attract more people to that one than what's over at Memorial? Because they've got a lot of residential around this area that I'm sure the Design Review Committee was looking into that as well.
That's correct, Commissioner Torres. Yes, part of the Development Review Committee, the Hollister Police Department is a part of that, and they did indicate their concerns of the things that go on the Memorial Park. They did mention some of the reports, police reports that they've received over the past years, where they do go and respond, and basically everything that you mentioned, Commissioner Torres, and that is one of the reasons why they've indicated that yes, unfortunately these things happen, and they try to respond as best as possible. They've indicated, and they also reiterated that it's unfortunate that some people act this way with the vandalism, with the bullying that goes on. However, they try their best to investigate. They feel two things. They feel that more surveillance will help, if possible. Not encroaching into any type of law that prohibits maybe cameras. That's part of the condition. That would help, for them to further investigate if things like that are going on. And they've indicated that they would definitely make their presence known in the area as well if this is what if the commission does approve it. The other thing that they mentioned is that they are aware of all these concerns, but their presentation or their response to their input on this project during the RC was that they did not want the people who unfortunately use the skate park for the wrong reasons to ruin it for those that use it for the right reasons, that come out and do their activities and have fun and are out there enjoying the park.
I have a question. Right here, when you said one of the conditions was that it's going to be operating only during daylight hours, and I think Commissioner Huber asked you about the fence, how high that was going to be. Is that going to prevent the folks by going in there doing the off hours? And who's going to monitor all that? Is there going to be any monitoring?
Commissioner Valdivia, yes, that is one of the things that we would look at as a condition of approval to try to see if we can fence it. One of the main reasons for fencing or any other way of trying to avoid that interface between the skateboarders and the families and the youth that are not using the skateboard park want to avoid any type of collisions. The fence, if it is fenced, whether or not it's going to be locked, that's one thing that we will confirm with management services. The monitoring part, Commissioner Valdivia, two ways. One, by video, expanding the video surveillance if possible in the area of the park and the public facilities or the public area, and the other by police doing their rounds. Members of the public calling if they see any activity that's going on after hours, and also city yard workers who, especially within the management services area, they can definitely report.
I'd like to get the police department to weigh in on the priorities of making this a rounds, because I, for one, and a lot of people know, I just go berserk when I see skateboarders over at Veterans Plaza. That really, that really just drives me up the wall. And I haven't seen that lately, but it's kind of like
It's gotten better.
personal crusade of mine for a long time, and I've given up on it. But I'd like to see what Chief Westbrook says about making where that is on the priorities if you're relying on the police to keep skateboarders out of there at night.
And one of and thank you for bringing up the memorial building. It's in close proximity to this park, and hopefully with this, they will, if approved, skateboarders that are in the area would prefer to come to the skate park as opposed to riding on.
I think you may have to rely on a fence.
Yeah.
Abraham, this proposed skate park is Dunn Park in the historical part of downtown?
It's in the old town, Madam
Is
Chair
it in the
Lenore.
historical district?
It is, I believe the historical district is on Monterey Street, so I believe it may be just out. I can confirm.
Dunn Park doesn't consider it a historical building officially, so it's not in the
Correct.
historical district.
Correct. It's in the old town.
Yeah,
As you know,
I'm talking about historical.
historical as
No, it's not.
a
Well,
contributing.
the clubhouse building is somewhat, I'm not sure
But it's
what
not
the
in the historical
sensitivity is at.
district. All right, it's Monterey.
I believe
The
so.
clubhouse is an Adobe building. I don't know how old it is, but it's old.
Oh, in the old town, Commissioner Huboy, there are a lot of buildings that
Yeah.
have that potential to be in the historic.
But it's not in the district.
Off the top of my head, Madam Chair Lenore, I believe it's not, because the closest district is Monterey Street,
Okay.
which is
Okay.
a block away.
But, yeah,
Go ahead,
I
go ahead.
also have, I'm all for supporting the activity for the age group that's going
Sure.
to be using the facility, because we just have that playground there for, usually used by the younger generation.
Little kids.
And
sure.
like I remember when I went to Memorial, we had all kinds of problems with bullying and all that. And I was just concerned in terms of how that was going to control, because you're going to have a mixture of folks using the park.
Yes.
The older kids versus the younger kids. And I was just
Yes.
concerned about that. And then also the use in terms of making sure that safety equipment is used. If it isn't going to be any monitoring, how is that going to be dealt with? I don't know what's happening in Memorial anymore, but that was an issue at that time, because we don't want anybody to get hurt.
Yes.
You know, I think safety is of
We
the
don't need
utmost for
another
the
park
kids.
named after a kid that passed away because he didn't have his helmet on.
Mhm.
I find it
It's
very
unfortunate.
alarming that people skate in that park knowing it's named after Daniel Yetter, and they're there without helmets. It's just not right, and the police are not enforcing it. Okay, so let's open the public hearing and hear the comments, and then we can discuss more after the comments. So open the public hearing at 7:11. Do we have any speaker cards?
We do. Raymond Friend.
Good evening, Planning Commission. And first of all, before we get started, I want to congratulate the new Planning Commissioners for being here. Thank you for stepping up. Thank you for volunteering. And we'll see in 4 years if you still like it or not. The other thing I wanted to mention as this is just on the outskirts of my district here in Hollister. And I just think with what we've talked about already tonight, and we're already mitigating for problems, I just think it's a bad idea to put this in that park. There's no doubt that that park needs to be updated. There's no doubt that there's improvements that could be done in that park, like putting a bandstand in or something that people could use other than skateboarders. And trust me, 2 years ago, I was the one who was crying for the skateboard park because of what was going on at the Memorial Building. We've pretty much cured that. We've mitigated that. So I just think it's a bad idea to have this in a mixed-use park like Dunn Park is. I think we should improve it and make it more of a mixed-use park for families than taking 1/3 of it and putting one small group into that 1/3, and then creating a possible danger of kids. And we all know skateboarders, you know, they're not strapped to those skateboards, and if they fall off it, the skateboard goes one way and they go the other way. There's no controlling where that skateboard's going to go. The fence might stop it going to the north, but what if somebody's sitting on the lawn to the west of the park? I just think it's we can do a better job as a city of finding a place to put that park. I think Dunn Park is a beautiful park. I think we should enhance it more and use it more, but I don't think this is the way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
Greg Harvey.
Thank you. My name's Greg Harvey. My wife and I own Joshua Inn Bed and Breakfast across the street. I'm going to respectfully ask you to deny this, to not approve it, and I have a lot of concerns, a number of which we live near that park every day, and we see what goes on every day, and if you've been over there, you know what I'm talking about. And for the amount of money that we're talking about putting into this project, and with all the other stuff, the enforcement, the potential, the cameras and all this other stuff, why would we not take that money and go over to that picnic area, which is the eyesore, quite frankly, that whole area, and spend money and fix that area up? That, to me, is a lot better use of that money than to do this. I think we're creating more problems than you're talking about solving. I get that teenagers need to have something to do. I totally get that. But, you know, I think we could do a lot better use with the money. I'm concerned about the enforcement. You know, we don't enforce the rules now. We don't enforce the alcohol. We don't enforce the drug use. We don't enforce the camping. So how am I, as an owner of a business which paid a lot of money to be there, and our guests who comment on this stuff regularly, and, you know, how am I to, to reconcile that? So I just, you know, if we can't enforce that, then I have no confidence that we're going to be able to enforce the other. And then we're going to ask the police, who we already call. I mean, we have to deal with profanity-laced tirades. I mean, we call on a regular basis. And yes, they come out. And yes, they run the problem down. But it's an ongoing thing. And now we want to exacerbate that. And I just think it's a bad idea. If we enforce the rules that are presently on the books, then I could see doing something else. But I think the money's better spent on improving that area of the park. The tennis courts look great. The playground is great. The center area is pretty nice. If we just spend the money and fix up that whole area with the picnic, it makes it more inviting. We had the CFO at a local company stay with us for over a year. He was looking for a place to have a company picnic, and Dunn Park was out. And it's just, I just think we can use the park for a lot better things. The other thing is the comment about the noise. I mean, I get that it doesn't make noise, but, you know, tennis courts don't have lights on them. There's no noise out there at night. Playgrounds, the kids aren't out there at night. Time's up. But that's, you know, the noise part is, you know, skateboarders are going to be out at night. So, all right, that's.
Thank you, Greg.
Suzanne Dam.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Dam. I live across the street from Dunn Park, and I want to ask you, I want to echo these and ask you to please don't do that to us. We have enough issues at Dunn Park that are not being enforced now. We lived there when the skate ramp was at Dunn Park before. You might remember before they put the one at out on Memorial Drive, they had one at Dunn Park first. It was nothing but trouble for us who lived there. They were there all times of the day and night. Yes, the noise was there all times of the day and night. I don't know what kind of noise they're talking about there, because we certainly heard it. We heard the screaming, the swearing. They were threatening to one another and to the general public. There was just a lot of issues, and I don't want to. We have enough issues. If you've driven by Dunn Park, you know what we're dealing with every day for many, many, many years now. And I can tell you what the priority of the police is. It's not a priority for them. They don't enforce. You know, they're not there now. They didn't enforce it when the skate ramp was there before. The only time I ever saw any rules enforced was when the city actually sponsored the event. Other than that, we never saw a helmet. We never saw anything that was supposedly posted as far as, you know, and cameras. We've talked to them about looking at what's on camera now to see what all the illegal activity, and we've gotten nowhere. So I echo what Greg said. I don't see that there's going to be enforcement, or that we should believe there will be enforcement until we see enforcement somewhere else. So please don't make a bad situation worse for us by approving a skate ramp. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and commenting.
Jerry Dam.
I'm Jerry Dam. I live with her at 566th Street. And you're probably not going to be surprised at which side of this discussion I'm going to fall on. In addition to our home, with a brother-in-law, we own two triplexes at 528 and 536th Street. Obviously, what happens at Dunn Park is more important to us than probably anybody else. My wife covered some of this, so I'll try to skip and keep it brief, but we were there in the 90s, and I was awakened by skateboard noise at 2 o'clock in the morning. Kids would come through my yard and act like I was the one in the wrong. It's a culture, and I don't think it's totally gone away. I think all of you are aware that part of the original reason for this was to move skateboarders away from Vets Park, or Vets Building. That may not work, even if you still had a problem. Skateboarders are known in some areas to do their practicing at the official skate park and then go out doing what they call freeboarding. They like to work in the natural environment. There are actually businesses created now for those little things you can put on benches and the like. It's that big of a problem. You can go to seminars on architecture to avoid the problems. If I were a parent of a skateboarder, I wouldn't want this skate park put in Dunn Park. If you look at the drug use, the bathrooms are seldom usable, often because of hypodermic needles in the drains. We've got real problems over there. I find needles on my property. I wouldn't send my kid there. It's just not a good fit for people at that age to be in that park with what's going on there now. On a more personal level, I'm extremely concerned about the well-being of some of my tenants. I have 3 tenants who are elderly and have mobility issues. And it's not just when the park's in operation or the skateboarders at the park. They're coming through your property. They're not going to be riding that bicycle to park it there. They're going to be on the skateboard going to and fro. And they have no respect, in some cases, for other people. I think this would put my tenants in danger. The other thing is, it's going to adversely affect my property values, both my home and my rentals. It may, in fact, decrease the rate at which I'm able to rent the apartments and decrease my occupancy ratios. It's really a bad thing for us. And just as one final note, the commission might want to verify, and I don't mean this to sound hostile, it does, but I don't mean it to, that it's met its obligation under the law in terms of the notifications that must be sent to certain people. The notification we were sent read that the site is located between Powell Street, West Street, 5th Street, and 6th Street. That's incorrect.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Roberta Daniel.
I'm sorry, I put the wrong agenda item.
Oh.
I'd like to speak on 5, please.
No worries. Roderick Thomas.
Hi, my name is Roderick Thomas. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. His sixplex rental property is right next to my house. We belong to 510 6th Street. And, I guess it's no surprise what I'm going to say either. The amount of problems we have going on right there need to be solved before any further development, and it's just that simple. The hypodermic needles are not an exaggeration. I personally called the police on an overdose from someone parked directly in front of my house not even 3 weeks ago. I am mostly single-handedly enforcing that park. I can bring a phone log to prove that. The 192 calls to the police within the last 2 years to remove the problem, to have them enforce the dusk curfew. Basically, the park's closed at dusk. Enforce that curfew, the drugs found on the ground. I actually brought my tablet to show you some pictures. In response to having the drugs and alcohol sweeping across the street where I'm raising a 12-year-old, I've been forced to set up cameras. There is a spot of the community center, which actually my front window faces that. I'm on 6th Street between his rentals and that old, nice Victorian house. So standing in my living room looking right out the window, that's the first thing I see. It smells like urine because that's where they're going to the bathroom. So I've personally called the police and had 3 people cited in the last 60 days alone. And somebody mentioned the barbecue pit area, that they didn't want the CEO to have a barbecue there. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but those pits aren't functional. Like, they've literally been broken and you couldn't barbecue in them if you wanted to, and I'd be happy to show you pictures. I actually want to. I really, guys, I want to spend the next couple of minutes having you take a look at what I walk out the door to see every day.
I've seen it. I see it all the time. It makes me cry almost.
This is what we see.
Yeah.
There's your barbecue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's in disrepair. Oh, boy. That's really bad. Just last year they were usable. Yeah, I saw it. I see it.
This was taken yesterday.
I'm taken aback every time I drive through.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
So, I'd like to change the conversation, and I don't even know how I do that. To put something on the docket to where we change the rules. I don't know if it's on today's docket as well to speak to perhaps changing that barbecue pit area into something that is by permit only. I don't know how to do that or how to address the council or how to even get that conversation going. But those of us that own property there are tired.
That would be the city council, and they would run it through their recreation department. They monitor all the leasing of the public facilities for the city, so I'm sure that if they wanted to, they could do that.
And how do we have a conversation that those of us that live there create some new ordinance in the city, like
So
having
maybe
shopping
you would
carts?
go to the city clerk and request a discussion item for the city council.
Okay. The city,
Start there.
The city clerk?
City clerk's office.
Yeah,
To be
it's also,
placed on the agenda.
there's also Parks Commission. There's also
Yeah.
Park Commission that you could also approach. And
That
they're like
too.
an advisory to the city council. And they,
Maybe that would be a better
Yeah.
recreation commission first, and then a discussion with the city council.
Copy that. I will definitely have a word with other
Yeah.
people in the room. As far as the playground goes itself, the skate park, probably not such a bad idea. I may not completely agree with everything that was said already, but the problems we have going on right now, this is just going to add to it. You can't leave a homeless camp on one side and expect teenagers to be okay on the other. That's not realistic. So right now I'm going to have to go with no. I don't want that in my front yard. I've got enough problems in my front yard. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jennifer Lane.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. I'm Jennifer Lane, and I'll be speaking actually in support of the skate park from two perspectives. So first, I'm Executive Director of the San Diego County Arts Council, and we did collaborate last spring with the City of Hollister on a grant application to the California Arts Council. It was a competitive grant that we received statewide, and we received $36,000 for a 2-year project at Dunn Park, precisely to address some of these concerns of the underutilization, the homelessness problem, the loitering, the bad kinds of behavior. And our theory of change really is that with increased usage, increased opportunities for families of all backgrounds and age levels to use the park, that we begin to bring some vibrancy back to the park. It becomes a safer place. It becomes, it creates a sense of community. And we're doing this through two approaches. One is through some fixed park improvements that were already kind of on the docket from the City of Hollister, which was the skate park, a small stage, some increased ADA accessible pathways, and so forth. As the Arts Council, we're bringing in kind of the arts funding to do a mural on the skate park, a bigger 3-dimensional public art piece, as well as increased programming. And our hope is really through increased activity at the park, we'll see a reduction of some of these unwanted behaviors and activities, and we'll see more people using the park for the purposes for which it was intended. So our grant is contingent on a city match, and so we're using the construction of the skate park and the value of that as a match for the money that we're bringing in from the California Arts Council. So that's one perspective, and for that, the Planning Commission has done a fabulous job in preparing the report, and I think that they have adequately addressed some of these issues of noise and so forth. The second perspective is I actually reside in the neighborhood just around the corner from Dunn Park. I'm the mother of 3 active children, and on any given day, I have between 5 to 8 additional neighborhood kids at my house. These are all, I tell you, all kids from low-income backgrounds. They have parents who are incarcerated. They have parents who are working in factories. They do not have the resources to enroll in organized activities or to travel across town to the one skate park that we have. To do that, they'd have to cross a highway, cross train tracks, and it's unsafe. So to me, really, I see this as an issue of equity for kids that live downtown, which is a middle to low-income neighborhood, and for kids on the west side. I've spent time at skate parks. It's true, you hear some bad words and things like that, but overall, the good does outweigh the bad, and that's what we want to encourage. And I think that we don't want Dunn Park just to become a park for very small children. We don't want it to become a park that's not utilized, and so it's a perfect safe haven for homeless people, and there's no enforcement, and slowly families are frightened to use the park. We want it to become a park of mixed activity, mixed backgrounds, and mixed usage, and we've seen with the refurbishment of the tennis courts how much it is used now. They were there before, and they were underutilized. And now you see, I even know of families from Ridgemark that were paying, big bucks to play up there that are now playing down at Dunn Park because it's a better facility. So I do think, we're not scientists, but I do think this is a theory worth testing, that if we add this improvement, that will increase the better and more increased usage of the park. And quickly to address Commissioner Torres, your issue about the tagging, we've been responsible too for the utility box murals in the downtown, and part of the reason for doing that is to mitigate tagging and graffiti, because usually when there is a mural, there's respect by the taggers. And out of the last 3 years that we've had utility box murals, we've had one issue with tagging. So it actually, over time, saves the city money from all the scrubbing and so forth, setting the crews out there to clean that up. And that we see that again and again. The goal, too, with the mural is to involve the local neighborhood, the community, for input on the mural design and the process itself. So that should foster a lot of pride and kind of caretaking of the park just by the process on its own. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
I have a question, Jennifer. The important cog of this grant money is the skateboard park. I mean, you mentioned other improvements that can be done in the park, such as a mural and an entertainment stage. If we were to deny the skateboard park, would that pretty much kill the grant money then?
I wouldn't say that it would kill it, but it would be a significant hindrance. So we kind of would have to go a little bit back to the drawing board, and we would need to.
The city could still do improvements in that park, and you would still receive a matching grant. Doesn't necessarily have to be a skate park.
Well, except that one of our milestones was to do a mural on the skate park. So
Right.
we would have to go back to the California Arts Council,
Okay.
state our agency.
There's no other structure to place a mural on, or even a freestanding surface?
That's possible. It's
Doesn't
possible.
have to be on a skate park.
I'm not sure. I would have to check because it changes a little bit the intent of our proposal.
Okay, so you think it might still be intact if it wasn't the skate park?
I'd have
You could
to
switch
check
gears a little
into it.
bit, maybe do some redesign and come up with some other ideas for improvements.
So yeah, so
possibly.
when the grant is reviewed, they're looking at it as a whole. So they're seeing, okay, the city is going to invest in this park through the mini skate park, right? So if that is in jeopardy, or if the city doesn't meet that requirement that was initially, reviewed and approved by the granting agency, then
it would have to be reconsidered.
Well, we'd have to check with them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming forward.
Dawn Souza.
Hi, Chair and Planning Commission. My name is Dawn Souza. I'm a resident of the neighborhood on 5th Street. I live in the same vicinity as Jennifer Lane, so I see all the kids at her house on a regular basis. We've been residents of Hollister for 36 years. We've been residents of the neighborhood for over 25 years on 5th Street. We've put a lot of money into our home, and we put a lot of money into investing relationships with our neighbors as well. And we're coming here in support of the skate park for the youth. And that's on a number of points. The first point is I support the fact that over the years that we've been there, we used to take our kids there. Our kids are in their 20s now. But we used to take them to the park and play. And I've noticed recently with all the improvements, all the families going to the park. The movie night in the park they had, the fact that there's the kids out there playing softball, the tennis courts. We're looking to continue improving the park so that families continue to go, and they're not afraid to go. And while I do agree with most of the residents here about the homelessness problem and the needles and everything else, we don't like to see that. I walk my dogs every night, and I also take my doggy bags with me too, by the way. But at the same time, you see the homelessness and you see there's like a separation. So I think this skate park might be a nice bridge. If there's a way we can mitigate some of the concerns, that would be great. But any improvement we can make to that park brings up the value in the neighborhood and the investment of the city with an underserved population for the kids. So anyway, I do support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
That concludes the comments.
Okay, so we have no more speakers. We're going to close the public hearing at 7:35 and bring it back to the commission for further discussion and a vote. So who would like to comment first?
Well, I agree generally on the principle of that we need to put some investment in the park. That's the only way it's going to transition back into the family park. I remember when I used to push my daughter on the swings there when we first moved to Hollister, and I have good fond memories of Dunn Park. I think, though, that there are some real concerns here about the issues that have been really addressed, at least to my satisfaction, on security, on safety, and use of the park at night. And I just think that before I can support it, I think that you need to come back and I'd like to see Chief Westrick weigh in on, for example, on monitoring the park at night and making sure that some of these activities are controlled to my satisfaction. But generally speaking, I mean, a mural and entertainment stage and fixing up some of the barbecue areas and, putting some excitement and getting it, I think it also, having another outlet for kids to use the park is certainly in the right direction, but I just still have some concerns about those issues that, to me, haven't really answered those questions. So I feel comfortable with it, and I think that I would like to propose that you bring it back to us and have those issues brought back and addressed, so that we know that what we're really taking action on.
Anybody else?
That's my thing. I'm done.
Yes,
Thoughts on the
yes, I do. Thank you. Yeah, and I was just thinking about the history of the park, and I was brought up in San Juan Valley from the Hicks. When I got married, I moved to the big city of Hollister, but I had 3 children, and I always used to use the park. Like, for example, concerning the barbecue pits, we had birthday parties, etc., but they were not in the distribution form that they are now. I know the community uses the hall. I use that a lot of times. It's a good place, and the park was donated to the city by the folks that donated. And one thing too I was going to mention, I used to see some elderly people out there in the cars just to be there for the rest of the day after they had their lunch at the center. But now I don't see that anymore, and I think it's because of the activity that's in there. And I know I've seen all that, the activities there. So one thing that, and I do support like activities for the kids and children. I think that's really important because there's no other outlet for them to participate in, whether it's distance or whatever. And it's important, and the families also cannot afford to sign up for activities that's going to cost a lot of money. But one thing that I would want to, and I don't know if we can table this, is can we have some kind of a guarantee that the park is going to be monitored? I'm really concerned about the safety. That's one thing. I'm really pro-safety and making sure that nobody gets hurt. I don't care who it is, make sure that people are safe, and make sure it doesn't overlap into other things. Because the park is a beautiful place. It is, and it's surrounded by residential, etc. I understand that. So that's one thing that I'm really concerned is the safety in terms of the utilization of the park. Is it time for us to go ahead and explore that before we deal with the other issues? Because we do have some issues there. Well, I've known that all along. We have some issues concerning homeless there and everything. That's why the folks don't go there and they don't want to use the park. I've gotten that information from different neighbors that live there, and they mention it. They tell me all the time they still think I'm I'm in the city council, but I go, no, you need to go over there because I'm not there anymore. But I can be a voice for you if I have an opportunity. But anyway, you know, I keep struggling with the idea that, you know, we need another outlet for the kids to participate in, and that would enhance the uses of the park if it was really monitored, because I know Memorial Park is way over there on the other side of town, and there's no other activity there, so it's isolated. Here, it won't be isolated because there'll be other folks using the park, etc. And I think that's one of the goals that the city should look at in terms of making really cleaning up the area, making sure that, and upgrading the barbecue pits, tables, etc., so people can use them. You know, and you're going to have more family activity. I think that would control a lot of the concerns that we have right now. I could, you know, in the future, in the near future. And Gabriel, not Gabriel, I'm sorry.
Hey, Brian.
I don't know where the city's at in terms of looking at really working in that area to, I'll say cleaning it up, you know, and everybody knows what that means, you know, making sure that the families will be able to use the facility. A lot of families around there already, they're aged and maybe they don't have that much children, but I still see a lot of kids in there playing in the playground. And it's nice, and I agree with the tenants. A lot of people, that's been really active lately, and it's nice to see the folks using the facility. I don't know if there's any other guarantees that we can deal with besides we take this route. And the funding that was received by the Arts Council, I understand you have a 2-year gap to utilize the money. Maybe something can be worked with them so they can get some other kind of in-kind if this doesn't fly right now. But I don't think it should be a dead issue. I think that we really need to look into see how we can work, the city can really work and see how we can modify that for the concerns of all the concerns that were about here before us, you know, everybody, the neighbors, etc. And I don't know, I just wanted to say that, and I don't know if we can do that, or if this is, you know, I don't want, you know, and also work with the Arts Council so they won't lose their grant, you know, because I know about the matching funds, if they're going to use that as a match, you know. So anyway, I just thought that's all my thoughts right now.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
So my input here was obviously Abraham and Mike. I know this particular park, I'm sure, has earmarks for certain repairs that need to be done. The gentleman was showing some of the pictures of the barbecue and areas. Since this is a matching grant, I'm sure the city identified the priority items that needed to be done. I, like Dave, agree that I think we need to bring this back. Again, I don't want them to lose their grant monies, but we need to prioritize what's there now. If Mike has a list of things that are being on the list with this matching grant that need to be done, include other items besides the skate features that will bring back the vitality of the park and prioritize those first. I think we're jumping way ahead, my personal feeling, way ahead with a skate park when there's existing facilities that aren't even operational.
Any comments?
Yeah, and also if we do bring it back, I want to see these issues of monitoring, safety, and controlled access. I want those questions answered so that it's clear that how that's going to be accomplished.
Okay, thank you.
I'm in agreement with the other commissioners that, and along with the comments that were made tonight about the tennis courts. I think if we see the barbecue pits and whatnot fixed in that park, I think we'll see those utilized. There's a lot of concerns with that park rather than throwing another issue in there which has safety concerns. So I think some of the problems that we're seeing, if we fix the other areas, those problems will take the path of least resistance and move on and allow the community to use that park in which it was originally intended for.
Okay, well, I've given it a lot of thought, because I really like youth. I love kids. But I got to tell, I'm going to ask any one of you in here who wants to live next to a skate park. I don't think anybody wants to live next to a skate park. The one on Veterans Memorial is more isolated. There's not houses around it. This is the oldest part of our downtown with historical houses surrounding at least two sides. There was, in fact, many costs associated. I worked for the city yard for 4 years There was a lot of unnecessary costs and staff time and materials, because, boy, I tell you, they'll cut a fence and they'll cut it in 5 places. Never really understood that, but there was a lot of damage. It was constant upkeep. Again, noise is an issue. I'll tell you how I know that. I live across from Grunagle's funeral home. I have my bedroom window right there. I can hear the minute one skateboard hits their porch, and it's slam, bangs, crash, and I don't know if they're aware of it, but like the gentleman in the audience, I pretty much watch Grunagle's for them, because it's just a shame to see them riding up and down their beautiful walkways there and their porch. They don't care. They'll just go there and do that, and it is noisy. Grunagle, and then also, I just feel like because the homes, I've been there for so long, I just think it's an inappropriate area, but I might be able to consider if the park was in better shape. There's just too many other things that need to occur in that park before you add any kind of use such as this. And I was kind of hoping that, I want to know, was there any other areas in the city that were considered for the mini skate park? Or was it just Dunn Park?
For purposes of this item, architectural is Dunn Park. However, the city is working on a master parks program at this time, and that is being taken into consideration not only pretty much throughout the city of Hollister. So that, that's a plan in the works at this time.
Okay, so I do have those concerns, and I'll ask one last question. If we deny it without prejudice, then they're able to come back and reapply, correct?
I think that's a question for our city attorney as an option, or as another option to table it. What would be the difference?
I would suggest if you deny it, at that point in time, the only way you could bring it back, if it's the exact same project, would be a motion for reconsideration of your former denial. Otherwise, your other options would be to continue the matter, to table it to either a specific date or a non-specific date in the future.
For me, the use isn't so much an issue as the impacts that it's going to create. And I wouldn't move next to a skate park. These folks are already living there. So it's an issue. Those are my comments, and I'll just leave it there.
I'm more concerned about the impacts, not necessarily the use. And I would be in favor to, until those impacts are addressed clearly.
Well, you're talking about current impacts, right? I'm talking about impacts from a skate park.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that I would be in favor of bringing this back and having some of these questions answered.
Enforcement's a big issue with me as well. It's just not there.
I don't want to jeopardize the grant either. I don't know what the timeline is, but I'd like to, keep this moving, because I do want to see some investment in that park. There's some good ideas, definitely.
When the city council discussed it with the arts council, I'm assuming, they were obviously Ray Friend wasn't on the same page. So were the other 4 for the skate park at Dunn Park?
Abraham, what did the council
'Cause I'm surprised to
review
see Ray
most
Friend.
recently from the Arts Council?
The council, I wasn't at that meeting for the city council or at that when it was discussed. I'm not sure if
somehow got into the mix.
Yeah.
Of improving the park.
Yeah,
Sounds to me like the council gave its blessing, but I see that Ray Friend did not give it its blessing.
Nor did the council.
Okay. Just point of clarification here. I don't like going against the council. Whenever possible, try to go with what the leaders are saying they'd like us to consider. But in this case, I cannot do that.
Going back to the Veterans Plaza, if it's not on the priority list of the city police to monitor, when I've gone by the Veterans Plaza and seen skateboarders there, after I followed a patrol car right in front of me didn't do any. Didn't stop or do anything about it, and I had to take the law in my own hands, of course, respectfully.
That happened to me.
I have questions about whether or not they're going to monitor this activity at night. Are they going to climb the fence? Is it going to go on at night? keeping people awake, you know, these are
And there's a
questions that
will,
have
there's
to
a
be
way.
answered.
Okay, so I think we know where we're headed.
Yeah.
Okay, so, for the sake of moving it on, because we've already given our opinions and we've listened to the public testimony, I'm going to entertain a motion on the resolution, PC 2017 excuse me, I'm sorry.
23.
It was 23, correct?
Or 20.
23?
24.
24? No. 23. No? Wasn't the last one we did the duplicate? Excuse me, folks. Last one we did was 22 for the condominiums. Okay, so 24. I'm sorry. So number 24.
I'm going to make a motion to table this item to a specific date, and I guess staff and the applicant can determine that date upon a meeting.
We have to note the date here in order for that to work.
So we would allow enough time for maybe two meetings from now, so that maybe the
November, December.
And I have maybe one of the police department and management services explain kind of like a priority list, and police department explain their goals for the monitoring of the area, possibly.
bring back some options to the planning commission.
When we're very concerned about the state of the park, they gotta clean it up. You don't throw another use on top of that. It's not good.
So my motion would be
Sure.
to bring that back in November.
Do we have a consensus that will continue until the meeting of November?
I'll second that motion.
November 16th.
November 16th, we'll continue at consensus? Okay, so we're gonna continue this item to the November 16th Planning Commission meeting. For further discussions in the meantime, and then again at the meeting, because it will once again be a public hearing.
Madam Chair, what's going to happen in November? Are we going, the staff going to go look and see, check out some of the concerns that we
Well,
have?
we've given them direction.
Okay.
So they're gonna go talk and discuss it, and then they'll write us another report.
Okay.
Then we'll have another public hearing and ultimately a vote.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you all for speaking on the item. It's just a consensus. Yeah. Okay, so the next item, conditional use permit 2017-7 for Printex concrete products. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow for the use of concrete to manufacture precast concrete products such as sound abatement walls, transit shelters, utility boxes, entry signs, monuments, and other specialty concrete products. It's going to be in an existing 10,360 square foot industrial building on 3.472 acres located at 1601 Lana Way in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. It is categorically exempt from CEQA. May we have the staff report?
Yes, you may. The applicant is requesting approval for a conditional use permit to allow for the use of concrete to manufacture precast concrete products such as sound walls, utility boxes, entry signs, monuments, and other specialty concrete products in an existing 10,360 square foot building on a 3.472 acre site. The property is located at 1601 Lana Way in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. The project is proposing hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 days a week, with a total of 20 employees. The floor plan includes areas designated for production and manufacturing of concrete products. Printex will not produce concrete, but assemble concrete-based products in form of on-site, with truck delivery concrete. All manufacturing and assembly will be located inside the existing building. The staff recommends that the Planning Commission review the applicant's request, receive all written and oral testimonies regarding the proposal, and consider approval conditional use permit number 2017-17, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. I also want to make a note that conditional use permit 2017-17, condition number 2, will be removed and is not required in this case.
Does anybody have an extra pen? It ran out of ink. Oh, no, you need your pen. You got another thing. I'll return it to you.
I have a question on the building itself. It's not clear to me what the proposed building improvements are. Are they doing anything to the building itself?
So as of right now, they're not proposing any type of changes to the building.
Okay.
Most likely they will have some TIs, some tenant improvements, but that's something that will go through the building department. As of right now, they're just asking for the conditional use permit as is required in the light industrial.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
Any other questions? We'll open the public hearing at 7:55. Do we have any speaker cards? And Hall?
Hall. For
Commissioner-
finale.
Madam Chair Lenore,
Yes.
before the first speaker comes up, I did want to, staff wants to ask, after former Commissioner Harvey came and spoke, a noise from the computer came up. It wasn't a timer. We normally don't use our timers here, but it's up to you if you would like for us to use it, or if not, we
No.
continue not using it. Very well.
Nope, I don't like that rule.
Very well. Point taken.
I am here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant does have a request as it pertains to this conditional use permit. As Christian explained, it's a company that would make concrete products. They would be moving here from San Jose. They were happy to find this location. This is a former Waste Connections building that's been empty for quite some time out at the industrial park. It's a large building on a large site. But they were excited to find it, and it fits their needs. They are not proposing any changes to the building. They want to move in and start working. It's got the area they need to make their concrete products, and the gate, the yard, everything's set up the way they want it. So this kind of goes to the question you asked, Commissioner Heboy. They are not proposing any changes. This is simply a use permit, and they are concerned that there are several conditions that apply to either requesting a building permit, getting a building permit, things that need to be done if you get a building permit, which they feel don't belong on a conditional use permit when they're not proposing any construction. So, for example, if you look at the conditions of approval,
I did.
and I know we've talked with staff, but the applicant is just concerned that there's conditions on here that imply construction, that give them conditions for construction when they're not doing any construction, and what that may mean, what that could be interpreted to mean in the future when they're not planning to do any construction. Or someone could come back and say, well, this says that when you do this, you have to do this, so when are you doing this? And they're not planning to do that. They had some discussion with staff, although we didn't have a lot of time once we saw the conditions, but they are requesting that conditions 5 through 7 and then 9 through 40, which are the majority of the conditions, be removed since they have nothing to do with the conditional use itself.
So they're saying that no additional permits will be required from the environmental health department or the fire department. They're changing the use in that building, correct?
It's an industrial building, and they're
But
doing
we're
an
giving a
industrial
conditional use permit. It's not a permitted use. So they're getting a conditional use.
The only reason this came for conditional use is because it has the word concrete.
Right, right.
And so it is an industrial use in the industrial park in an industrial building. And even the conversations prior, because the original question was, why do they need a conditional use for this actual use? I understand there's something in the ordinance that refers to concrete directly, although it's, again, their position that refers to the manufacturing of concrete when you have fly ash and other materials present, not the use of concrete being poured. However, the determination was they needed to come for a conditional use permit. So
They're
they
not
are.
proposing any signage?
The signage, they would update the sign that's there. There's a
That's
current.
condition number 6.
Okay.
So that one's down.
Sometimes they look at the previous use of the building. What was the building previously used for?
Waste Connections. It was used when Waste Connections had.
Is that same occupancy, building code occupancy, or is it different occupancy? Do you know?
In terms of the occupancy, it's still going to be, it's an office building. It's a B/F use or B/I use. So that hasn't changed.
So it's the same occupancy.
Mm-hmm.
The restroom facility is already ADA?
The restroom facilities and the requirement to be ADA is an ongoing condition of the building code that applies whether you make it a condition or not. Whether it's a condition of approval of
It
this.
has to meet the ADA requirements. That's
Right.
federal law, right?
Yeah, it is. It's federal law.
And it does meet it?
Whether it does or doesn't meet it, they have to meet it, whether it's a condition or not.
Okay.
So
that has to be, yeah.
Yeah.
That has
So
to be
that-
done
Yeah, no, I
regardless,
know
right?
that.
That's the federal law that already.
If I may
It's
weigh
calling out a building permit for installed water closets.
Chair Lenore, if I may weigh in.
Sure.
For clarity's sake, one of the key point here is that it's currently a non-conforming use. So the city is clearly within its control to assert and set forth reasonable conditions that may or may not apply for a particular project. But the key point is that the city is allowing a non-conforming use at this particular location. And as long as the city's control for purposes of health, safety, and within its general police powers, the city is within its right, as long as the conditions are rationally related to those reasons, to set forth the type of conditional requirements that are set forth here in this particular proposed declaration. So my position would be is to leave those. If they're not applicable and if they're not used, so be it.
Okay, that's what I think. I cannot, in good conscience, eliminate standard conditions. And if they don't need to use them, then they won't use them.
And I think their position is that if they don't need to use them, why are they here? So in the request I was given was if that is not something that a change you want to make at this meeting here tonight, that they would request this be continued so that they have more time to talk to staff about it. Because we've really only had a small amount of time. And
I think they need to have more discussion with staff on these conditions. And maybe some can be eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
But to say 9 through 40?
I agree, and I have been here before on several projects, and I am familiar with the concept if it doesn't apply, you don't have to do it. But I'm also have been on the other end of projects where what was understood by the applicant as not applying at this meeting, and therefore they were like, fine, comes back to bite them later. So I've seen it both ways.
That's why we're going to clarify it.
So in that, like I said, in that case, the applicant would like to request a continuance.
Okay. So we have a continuance request. We just need a consensus. We're going to request Ann to the next meeting. Is that a date certain? Let's see, October 1, 2, 3, 4, October 26th. We have a consensus that we'll continue this item to October 26th? Yes. Okay, so you have a consensus for continuation to date certain, October 26th. Okay. We're moving on to the last item, the last public hearing. It's a recommendation to the City Council for an environmental impact report. It's also a pre-zoning 2015-5. It's a conditional use permit for a planned unit development 2017-6, a tentative map 2016-1, and a site and architectural for 2017-6. Hollister Enterprise LLC is requesting the Planning Commission recommend to the City of Hollister City Council for a pre-zone for annexation of approximately 54.9 acres to the City of Hollister. A vesting tentative map for a 206-lot residential subdivision and related infrastructure. As well, a conditional use permit for planned unit development, a site and architectural review approval, and the adoption of an EIR for the project. The project site is located between Fairview Road and Enterprise Road, being more, Assessor's parcel number 203109, and the city's portion is 574902 and 57491010. This subdivision proposes 192 single-family residential lots, 14 multifamily lots for which plan unit development and site and architectural review approval is required. It's also going to include a dedication of 2.54 acres of land adjacent to the Valley View Park to enable the city to expand the park in the future. The 14 multifamily residential lots would consist of 7 duplexes, 7 duplex lots, and 7 triplex lots. CEQA is Environmental Impact Report. Do we have the staff report?
Yes, you may, Madam Chair Lenore, thank you. As you mentioned, the project site consists of 3 contiguous parcels totaling approximately 54.29 acres. The project site is identified in the general plan as a priority infill development area. The proposed project is an environmental impact report with the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, a pre-zone for the annexation of territory to the city of Hollister, also a vesting tentative map for a 206 lot residential subdivision with a net residential density of 6.4 dwelling units per acre, and a planned unit development to allow a variation in dwelling classifications in the R1 zoning district. As you know, the R1 zoning district allows for single-family residential homes. However, as it is proposed to be pre-zoned, it's going to be pre-zoned with the performance overlay and with the conditional use permit for planned unit development. It would allow for variation to allow for duplexes, triplexes, a multifamily component. And also, as you can see in the screen, in the list, a site and architectural review for the construction of 35 multifamily residential units in the form of duets and triplexes for a total of within 14 lots. The residential subdivision includes, as you mentioned, Madam Chair Lenore, 192 single-family residential lots and 14 multifamily lots for which a plan unit development is required, and dedication of 2.54 acres of land adjacent to the Valley View Park. There's a layout of the plan to enable expansion of the park. The 14 multifamily residential lots consist of 7 duets for a total of 14 units, and 7 triplex lots for a total of another 21 for a total of 35 multifamily residences. Development on the site consistent with the tentative map will provide a total of 227 dwelling units, which is consistent with the 2005-2023 City of Hollister General Plan and the low-density residential land use designation. The project also includes public land uses, including roadways, right-of-way, a linear park, approximately 34,214 square feet of linear park. As you can see by the proposed park, it would be essentially along Mimosa, the extension of Mimosa Street. Also improved bicycle and pedestrian paths and utility easements. Recreational facility improvements on the 2.54 acre land dedication for Valley View Park will be made by the applicant to include major recreational amenities, which include but are not limited to, for example, tennis or volleyball courts, basketball or baseball fields, and other amenities appropriate to foster a sense of place and community per section 1704.040 of the Hollister Municipal Code. So that's not defined at this point. However, there is a condition of approval pending your approval of recommendation and pending City Council approval that these major amenities get defined prior to the final map pending approval, pending to final map at the Parks and Recreation Commission. All public improvements and the expanded community park will be maintained by the city, with the cost of the maintenance funded through the existing Melrose District and by annexing into the city's existing communities facilities 2 and communities facilities number 4. Pending project site being annexed into the city of Hollister and required planning applications are approved. So again, first we would require that if recommended by you to the City Council and the City Council does approve it, we would require that the pre-zone then go to this local agency formation commission for it to be properly annexed during a public hearing with LAFCO. And prior to that, no permits can be issued by the City of Hollister for any type of development, not even grading. Planning Commission consideration and recommendation is requested for the following application requests. So we're going to have a breakdown of the project as follows. Pre-zone 2015-5. The proposed project includes pre-zoning the 53.35 acre site, as you can see on the tentative map on the screen, identified as San Benito County parcel number 2310009 to low density residential on approximately 40.81 acres and to open space park on approximately 2.54 acres to be consistent with the general plan for low density residential and for public land use designations. Annexation to the city will be required prior to development on the 53.35 acre site as indicated to you previously. The other component to this, besides the pre-zone, the tentative map 2016-1, the proposed application includes the subdivision of the project site. The proposed subdivision includes 14 multi-family residential lots located adjacent to Valley View Park, and also 192 single-family residential lots for an average net density of approximately 6.4 dwelling units per acre. And the low-density residential allows up to 8 dwelling units per acre with the target density of 6 dwelling units per acre, which is being met with this proposal. The 14 multifamily lots will be developed with 7 duets and 7 triplexes, as mentioned, that will provide a total of 35 dwelling units. As shown on the tentative map on the screen before you, all lots adjoining the Cielo Vista neighborhood will consist of residential lots not less than 1 acre in size for neighborhood compatibility with the existing Cielo Vista subdivision, and they should also be single-story in size per condition number 55. Condition number 55 in your draft resolution actually says that they should not be any smaller than a quarter acre of size. Doesn't mention anything about single story in size, but that's one recommendation that we ask if that is the request, if the Planning Commission would want to move forward with that.
To make it single story.
To make a single story as well.
Perimeter?
Just adjacent to yes.
Cielo Vista.
Just adjacent to Cielo Vista. Mm-hmm.
Which resolution is that on, Abraham?
That's on your. We have 3 different resolutions, Commissioner Torres, and that's in the, as you know, and that's in the resolution for the recommendation to the tentative map, conditional use permit for planning and development, and the site and architectural. Yes, and that's number 55. The subdivision includes 15.01 acres of public right-of-way, the provision of 2 stormwater detention basins that are approximately 1/2 acre in size that would be located at the intersection of Enterprise and Glenview, as you can see on the screen here. At that entrance, there will be basically to meet stormwater management requirements by the Regional Water Quality Control Board. In addition, a 2.54 acre parkland dedication for future expansion of Valley View Park, and an additional 0.8 acres, or approximately 34,214 square feet of linear park to provide a pedestrian connection between the approved but not yet constructed development to the north. As you know, that's the Award Homes proposed subdivision or approved subdivision. The project developer would construct park improvements consistent with the Hollister Parks master plan and pending review and approval of the Hollister Parks and Recreation Commission. Prior to the issuance of the 145th, which is a building permit, which is about 75% of completion of the building. And that's per resolution number 64, again, of the tentative map recommendation. Again, however, prior to final map, the applicant shall enter into an agreement with the city for dedication and full improvements of the park. So pending approval, they don't have to construct it right away, but we are going to require them to come into an agreement prior to final map, if approved, to dedicate it and to commit to the full improvements of the park. The conditional use permit for plan unit development component of this project is for the plan unit development of the subdivision, particularly on the 14 lots proposed near the park expansion. Again, as mentioned, because it's low-density residential, single family is what's allowed. However, with the conditional use permit for a plan unit development, multifamily can be incorporated with the performance overlay. And one of the main reasons for this multifamily component, as you know, it's no secret. We just passed the housing element last year with multiple meetings with your planning commission, multiple meetings with the city council, and also joint planning commission and city council. And we know that there is a big need for rental housing in the city of Hollister, and not only in the city but in the state of California. I know there's been laws and there's been legislature recently passed to address that, and this is one of the reasons why, even though there is no formal ordinance in the city of Hollister requiring inclusionary or requiring multifamily, the performance overlay zoning would promotes it or provides flexibility for it, and this is one of the reasons. This is one of the goals of this project, to provide for this multifamily, and this is the reason why we have the plan unit development component as well. Finally, the site and architectural review component essentially is for the construction of the multifamily component, because as you know, site and architectural is not required for single-family homes as long as they meet the general development standards of the city of Hollister, but for multifamily it is. And so site and architectural is required for the duets and triplexes. So and basically we'll be focusing now on the area of the duets and the triplex. 5 lots identified on the tentative map as lots 202 through lots 206, which is basically on the northern side of the proposal. They range in size from 7,723 square feet to 11,587 square feet. Would be located along the north property line at the northwest corner of the site, north of the road identified as C Street, as you can see on your screen in the attached tentative map. And each would contain a triplex residential structure. The residential structures would face Street C. Obviously, right now it's not named; it's just identified as Street C, and have a rear yard setback that would vary from a minimum of 10 feet to a maximum of 27 feet. 3 lots identified as lots 199 to lot 201, here along Street C as well, would range in size from 7,638 square feet to 9,866 square feet, and would be located to the east of Street C, and would each contain a duet residential structure. The rear of the lot would back onto the proposed park strip. As you can see here, this is a proposed park strip, about 0.8 of an acre in size, that would connect to the development approved but not yet constructed to the north along Mimosa Street. Lots 193 to, as you can see here, to 198 as well. Identified in the tentative map would each have a duet or triplex for a total of 7 duets and 7 triplex, again for a total of 35 multifamily units in the form of duplexes and triplexes. The duets would have a craftsman architectural style, as you can see on the screen, with roofline variation, a front porch architectural trim on all of the windows, and shutters on 2 of the upstairs windows. Each of the units on the duets would have 2 bedrooms and 2.5 baths. The triplex would have a farmhouse architectural style, as you can see on the screen as well, with roofline variation, window trim, and front porches. The triplex would have either 2 or 3 bedroom units, each with 2.5 bathrooms. Access and circulation. Regarding access and circulation, the site plan identifies access to the site by way of Glenview Drive and Mimosa Street, as you can see here, off of Airline Highway, and then from off of Airline Highway to Enterprise Road to Glenview, or Mimosa Street to the project site. Mimosa Street is planned to ultimately traverse the property to the north, currently owned by Ward Homes, and connect with Union, and ultimately to Fairview Road, and that ultimately would be a controlled intersection, signalized, improved, future improvements would be signalization on Fairview and Union, and future signalization on Enterprise and Airline Highway. A Class 2 bicycle route is proposed along Fairview Road and Union Road per the San Benito County Bikeway and Pedestrian Master Plan. connection to the existing Cielo Vista subdivision would consist of a 20-foot wide pedestrian bicycle emergency vehicle access and utility easement via Tierra del Sol located to the north of the of Cielo Vista development, and Valle Verde located to the west of the Cielo Vista development as well. All other interior roads shall be consistent with the city's improvement standards for roads, sidewalk, curb, and gutter. Per the City of Hollister Municipal Code, the Director of the Development Services Department shall first submit a complete application for the initiation of pre-zoning to the City Council to obtain direction on whether the pre-zoning will or will not proceed. So just a little bit of background. On August 17, 2015, the City Council of the City of Hollister reviewed this initiation request to see whether or not the applicant would proceed with the actual pre-zoning of the property, and the City Council adopted Resolution 2015-158, basically indicating that the property is within the sphere of influence. There are utilities that are in close proximity to it, so therefore it would be the council approved the resolution basically saying that the applicant can move forward to explore the pre-zoning. At that point, that's when the environmental impact report began. It's reviewed, its preparation, and the draft environmental impact report, which basically addressed all potential significant impacts and mitigation measures to reduce those significant impacts to less than significant for most of these impacts that were addressed, was sent out for circulation to responsible agencies, including the State Clearinghouse, Caltrans, Air District, and so forth, and also for public review from January 17th to March 2nd, 2016. On June 15, 2017, the applicant held a community meeting to discuss the project and to hear concerns from the neighborhood. And on September 15, 2017, notification for today's public hearing was sent out to the public and also published in the newspaper as well. We do want to briefly, after the public notice for the environmental impact report had ended, we still received comments from one of the neighbors, and we wanted to, as part of the full disclosure, we wanted to just make sure that we provided the comment before you, and it's also as part of the staff report. Essentially, it's a correction to the environmental impact report, and if you don't mind, Madam Chair Lenore and Commission, to read it, we could read it into the public record. Please. So the comment basically indicated that after the public, this was after the public review, but under Section 2.0, project description of the draft environmental impact report is stated as follows: wastewater. Regarding wastewater, the project site is currently located within the Sunny Slope County Water District, Cielo Vista Community Service Area, which is included in the Hollister Urban Area Boundary for sanitary sewer collection and treatment services. Also, Section 4.0, CEQA consideration, states as follows: wastewater, the project is currently located within the Sunny Slope County Water District, Cielo Vista Community Service Area, which is included in the Hollister Urban Area. The correction with that, after talking with the Sunny Slope County Water District and the County of San Benito, is that the project site is currently located within the Sunny Slope County Water District and not the Cielo Vista Community Service Area. The Sunny Slope County Water District, and talking with staff, currently provides potable water service and fire water service to the Cielo Vista Community Service Area, but does not provide, nor does it plan to provide, any wastewater service to the Cielo Vista development. So wanted to put it into the record that was after discussing with both San Benito County and Sunny Slope. And another point that was provided by the neighbor was that Section 3.17 of the draft EIR states as follows: environmental setting. The project site, along with the 70-acre Cielo Vista Estate subdivision adjoining the project site, is established as San Benito County Service Area Number 22 for the purposes of wastewater treatment within the area. The San Benito County 2035 General Plan EIR reports that Cielo Vista has contracted privately to operate and maintain their wastewater treatment system. In addition, Figure 18 illustration appears to indicate that the Roberts Ranch site is within the same county service area as the Cielo Vista Estate subdivision. So again, we want to put the correction into the public record that the Cielo Vista Estate subdivision encompasses approximately 53.23 acres instead of the 70 acres noted in the draft EIR, as indicated on the County of San Benito 2035 general plan. The county service area number 22 is the Cielo Vista Estate subdivision area only and does not encompass the Roberts Ranch project site. Per San Benito County Board of Supervisors Resolution number 8743, adopted on March 2nd, 1987, County Service Area number 22 was established for the purpose of providing a variety of county services and not only wastewater. The Cielo Vista Estates wastewater treatment plant is under the ownership of the County of San Benito. So that's to correct the draft EIR. The next steps pending you taking public hearing today and making a decision is planning commission recommendation to city council. The following would occur. A public hearing would be scheduled with the city council, and the public hearing would be scheduled for later, either October, more than likely November. A public hearing would be posted in the newspaper and also sent to neighbors as well of that notification. And we would be discussing the actual pre-zoning for annexation of territory and the actual tentative map, conditional use permit for plan unit development, and site and architectural, as well as the actual adoption of the environmental impact report. So this is mainly for recommendation to the city council. The city council requires 2 readings for the pre-zoning. Pending approval of the pre-zoning for annexation, then it goes for another public hearing to LAFCO for the actual annexation of territory, and that will be another public hearing. LAFCO will send notification again for that. So those are the next steps. Prior to finalizing the staff report and taking questions from the commission and the public, we do also want to let you know that we did receive a letter from another resident dated September 22nd after the packets were out. If it's okay with the commission, I can also read it for the record. We have this letter, and it's also in the foyer for the public to receive as well. If it's okay with, very well. This is a gentleman by the name of Bill Lee. Mr. Prado, I had an opportunity to review the final EIR for this project. Overall, I believe this project is an excellent asset to our community, and I encourage the city to move forward with the approval of this project. However, there is one item that I have noticed in the design that I believe should be revised. That item relates to local traffic flow. In the final EIR, there is a letter from the California Department of Transportation dated March 2nd, 2017 that was received in response to the draft EIR. In that letter, Caltrans stated, "We strongly recommend other site plan alternatives such as new connection to Fairview Road that would allow functional circulation without reliance on one main access point at Enterprise Road. While I believe this project is a huge asset for the local community and is well thought out and has successfully addressed many issues, I believe this project would be much more beneficial to the community if there were more than one primary way in and out of the subdivision. All traffic from this project will be forced to flow in and out from State Route 25, primarily through Enterprise Road, secondarily through Union Road. I believe that the Caltrans recommendation should be followed and a road access should be connected to Fairview Road for this project. There is sufficient distance from any future signalized intersection at Cielo Vista Road to handle another signal at Old Ranch Road." And let me put the tentative map so we can. Old Ranch Road would be in this area here. If you watch traffic coming out of Richmond, you will notice about half flows onto State Route 25 and the other half flows onto Fairview Road. By having a connection to Fairview Road, you will spread out the local traffic flow, helping to eliminate future congestion when areas such as the area along Southside and Enterprise Roads develop and feed more traffic into State Route 25. The future residents of this subdivision, as well as the community at large, will greatly benefit from a secondary option with regards to the traffic flow. Therefore, finally, it is my request that while the city does approve this project, one of the conditions of approval be that a road connection is added to Fairview Road. Please feel free to reach out to me to discuss any questions regarding my comments above. Sincerely, Bill Lee. And just to respond, Madam Chair Lenore and Commission, the project is being proposed with a access through Enterprise Road from Airline Highway. However, secondary access will ultimately come from improvements on the Award Homes project that has been approved but not yet constructed to the north. Mimosa Street will ultimately connect to Union, and then Union will go to Fairview. And Fairview, one of the requirements would be that that's ultimately signalized, a signalized intersection. And projects that are contributing to the impact of these intersections will be required to pay their prorated share on the project. Once again, just to reiterate, this is a recommendation to the City Council for the Environmental Impact Report Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program, the pre-zoning of the property because it's currently in the county within the sphere of influence to be annexed into the city, the tentative map, the conditional use permit for plan unit development for the multifamily component, and the site and architectural for the actual duets and triplexes that are addressed in the tentative map that are a big need in our community. And with that being said, I would like to finish by indicating that staff recommends the Planning Commission review the CEQA documentation and the applicant's pre-zone tentative map, plan unit development, and site and architectural review request, receive all written and oral testimony regarding the proposal, and consider the following actions. A resolution recommending to the City Council to certify the environmental impact report and adopt the mitigation monitoring reporting program. A resolution recommending to the City Council to approve the pre-zone. And a resolution recommending to the City Council to approve the tentative map, conditional use permit, and plan unit development, subject to the findings and conditions contained in the draft resolution. I do want to point out your attention to two conditions. Condition number 67 in the tentative map essentially requires that condition number 67, just to summarize, requires that the actual multifamily component be built in conjunction with the single-family homes. What the city does not want is for the development, and we've had discussions with the applicant, for the development to move forward, if approved, with a single-family home, and leave a remainder of the multifamily area for later approval and for later development. So what we did is we tied it together. So the original request was that at 50% of the building permits issued for single-family homes, that the applicant also obtain building permits for the multifamily component. And at 75% of the issuance of the single-family homes, that the developer actually start building the multifamily component, and that prior to final of the single-family homes, that the multifamily is actually final. So we tie it in and make sure that it's actually built. In meeting with the developer, they had no issue with that. They recognize the need for multifamily, and they've indicated that they will commit to that and to the condition of approval. They just requested that instead of the 50% single-family residential unit, if they can actually obtain their building permits for the multifamily at the 165th building permit for the single-family homes, and and still commit to having and starting the actual construction of the multifamily at the 165th single-family building permit as well. So the intent is still met. They are still going to be, pending approval, taking out the single-family home permit at up to 165, and then at that point, they will be taking out permits and actually starting the construction, and still the multifamily will be finalized prior to the single-family as well. So that's one change that is being recommended. And another one is we would like to add a condition: single-family residential side yard setbacks for interior lots should be no less than 5 feet for interior lots. Street side corner lots will remain, top of my head, I believe it's 10 feet side yard setbacks to the street.
So the side yard interior lot's 5 feet.
5 feet, correct. Yes. So those are the two modifications to the conditions, and then the addition of, if it's the desire of the Planning Commission, single story for the properties that abut Cielo Vista instead of the 2-story. Granted, the requirement is no higher than 30 feet, but if it's a desire of the Planning Commission, the condition already states no less than 1 acre in size. If you want to add single story, we can certainly do so as well.
The setback's 25 feet right there?
To the rear? To the rear?
Yeah, on those units.
It's actually 30 feet.
30 feet.
Yes, and if you want that to stay as a condition, we can certainly have it stay. There, people have the ability to do porches in their back or accessory structures. If you want to keep that 30 feet as well, that's up to the up to your discretion as well. So at this time, we will open it to questions from the commission, and thank you for your time.
And I apologize, I was remiss. I did have an information meeting with Victor Gomez and Peter Hellman on August 18th, just for information. I just disclosed that. Should have disclosed it prior to the staff report, but that's the way it goes. I did have a comment, Abraham.
Sure.
I have a comment on the approval of the process of the approval of the park improvements.
Sure.
It is contingent with the city's Park and Recreation Commission.
Yes.
What is the status of that commission?
The commission would require a...
No, it's not an active commission right now.
Parks and Rec Commission?
Yeah, they are.
Are they?
Yeah.
Do they have a
Yeah,
quorum?
they're all up and running again.
They are?
They are.
Okay.
Which is great.
They're in the
Which is great
process
for
of
our community.
updating their master plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. That's good.
Okay, any
Glad to
other
hear that.
questions and comments?
It's an important commission.
Open for questions and comments. Okay, none right now. We'll open the public hearing at 8:36. Speaker cards?
Yes, Roberta Daniel.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I have a few questions. I really appreciate that the developer has made some concessions for Cielo Vista. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association, and the original plans were horrible for us. You guys were talking about the Dunn Park project and how it wasn't unfair for the neighbors who were there first, and that's how we feel about this particular project. The 1 acre lots around Cielo Vista and the single-story structures really help us a lot, and we appreciate whoever negotiated that. I do have a few questions, though. The map does not show the 1 acre parcels. It's the same map that we've been seeing for a long time. So I would hope that we wouldn't move forward with any approvals until we could actually see the map with the 1 acre parcels. The map as it is isn't correct.
Not proposing 1 acre. Right?
Quarter acre.
Yeah.
Oh, you said quarter acre?
Quarter acre, yes.
Oh, yeah, you said 1 acre twice.
No, it's actually one quarter acre is what they're proposing along Cielo Vista to address that compatibility. I know it's Cielo Vista, I believe it's 1 acre. However, the requirement for the low density residential is they can go up to 5,500 square feet, but the developer is willing to work and actually provide larger quarter acre parcels along Cielo Vista. Yes, I would like to make that correction if I stated 1 acre. But yes, it's 1 quarter acres along Cielo Vista Road. They're actually able to put 5,500 square feet, but they are willing to work and put 1 quarter acre, and that's part of the conditions of approval.
Is that what the current map shows?
The current map shows, yes, 1 quarter acre. That's correct. Yes.
Okay, we would then request that the actual sites that are along the perimeter of Cielo Vista be actually larger to match our lot size of 1/2 acre. our minimum lot size is 1/2 acre. And the other stipulation that we would prefer is that the setbacks be greater. What's the current setback?
The current setback for R1, if you may, is 20% of the lot depth with a maximum of 20 feet, minimum of 15 feet. And this is another concession that the developer is willing to do, that 30-foot setback. But they're able to do up to no more than 20 feet as per the zoning ordinance.
So we would request that the setbacks be greater than 20 feet. Our minimum setbacks, or our average setback,
They're
I think.
proposing 30.
Right. I would ask that they would even set them back further than that, because our lot sizes are larger and our setback is greater. The minimum, or the average setback in our neighborhood, I'll put it that way. I think there's one house that they made an exception about. They said was only 20 or 30 feet, but most of our houses are about 70 feet from the fence line.
From the rear yard?
Yeah.
Fence line.
Yeah, so we would hope that the setbacks could be greater. The EIR report in general shows that traffic is a huge problem on our side of Hollister in general. And Fairview Road is horrible. And there's no money in the county budget to fix that road anytime soon. And I know that people from the county, Mark Medina specifically, has been posting on Facebook, and I've talked with him about the garbage trucks using Fairview Road and creating a lot of potholes, et cetera, wear and tear on the roads. And I know they're trying to renegotiate that contract. But at present, the road is horrible. And the EIR report basically states that traffic is a problem not only on Fairview, but also on Airline and, of course, on 25. And that's before all the houses that have already been approved are built. So Award Homes is like 500 and some odd homes, and they're already approved. That's just more wear and tear on those roads, and the impact fees don't take care of that. So I just don't know if now is the time to approve more housing over in our general area. And I know the applicant will probably just go to the county and try to get the same development approved if you guys say no here, and maybe the county needs the money and they'll say yes. But I mean, something has to stop. There's just too much right around us. I got a call yesterday as the president of the Homeowners Association from the Four Corners builder. 220 houses are going to go in there across the street from us. 550 for the Award Homes. The Santana Ranch project only has built a few hundred homes, and 1,100 have been approved. I mean, Fairview just cannot continue to handle all these cars and have the county not have the money to pay for repairs on the road. So that's a major concern that we have. Traffic, especially when the environmental report specifically states specific intersections that right now are terrible. And then the Cielo Vista issues that we have, regarding what's going to be neighboring us. I think I can speak for all of our residents that when we bought our houses, we expected to live in the county, not in the city.
You're going to be in the county. You're in the county.
I know, but city life is right behind us. So it's like being in the smoking section of an airplane or being in the section that is no smoking.
But you're in the county, and this would be in the city, right?
If it's annexed. It's currently county.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah.
The proposal is to annex it into
right,
the city.
But the noise ordinances are different in the county and the city, and the density is different in the county and the city, and we are going to back up to basically what we tried to get away from by moving to the county. And again, it's the argument is we were here first and it's not fair. So those are my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Lee.
Commissioners. I'm the one that letter was read by Abraham. I appreciate you reading that. So you already kind of got a little bit of an idea as to what I'm thinking. I understand what Cielo Vista is feeling. Nobody wants anything to change in their backyard. You've got to have some growth and some progress or your town dies. I employ 100 people in this town. There are people in this town that want to just shut growth down forever. You want to do that, you're going to have a dead town. I travel throughout the country all the time on business. There's plenty of dying towns in Kansas and places like that. We don't need and we don't want to be one of those. But when you grow, you can control if you have smart growth or not. And that's really what this whole process is about with the planners, the planning commission, having the public hearing, hearing all the points of views. And that's why I pointed out the road access. You just heard the president of Cielo Vista Homeowners Association come up here and say traffic's an issue. Everybody will agree traffic's an issue in this community. But State Route 25 connecting us to US 101 and Highway 156, those are state issues, those are state highways. If we never grow, those roads don't get clogged enough and they won't become high enough priorities for the state to put the money in to expand those roads. So we can stay where we are and live with that clog, or we can grow, and it may get a little worse for a while. Those will eventually become higher priorities, and they'll get fixed. If you've lived here long enough, you remember when 101 through Coyote Valley was only 2 lanes each way, and it was miserable. It got bad enough that a federal judge actually ordered the state to improve 101 between Salinas and San Jose. So I talk to people. I've lived in this community. I've operated my business in this community for over 27 years. And you hear people say, one of the downers of living in Hollister is we don't have the restaurants and we don't have the stores and we always have to go to Gilroy. Yeah, well, when I first lived here, we had to go to Salinas. Gilroy didn't have all that stuff. But I've been here long enough to remember when Safeway wasn't even K&S and it was an onion field. And some of you, if you've been around long enough, remember that. Growth's going to happen, but let's grow smart. And that's why I wrote that letter talking about the access. When the final EIR was put out and I had a chance to read it, Caltrans wrote a letter, it was March of this year, and Caltrans recommended not to dump all this traffic on to one road, State Route 25. They recommended to dump it onto 25 and to Fairview. And be very, very easy for the developer to do that. There's actually an emergency vehicle access already to Fairview. It's simply a matter of widening that. It's not, Abraham's got the arrow on it. It's simply a matter of widening that. Yes, the developer will lose a lot, and I'm not trying to sting his pocketbook. I think he's got a great project here. He's got parks. He's got a lot of the things that we need taken into consideration, the multifamily. These are things we want. If we want jobs here, we got to have housing that people that work here can afford, and that multifamily is something we badly, badly need, and it'll help. But what I would ask you to do is approve this project and pass it forward. But I would ask you to add the condition that the road connection to Fairview be made. We can control our local traffic circulation, and we can give options. Now, a minute ago, Abraham said, well, eventually, when the next development goes, these people will be able to tie into Union, and Union will eventually go. Are people really going to drive 10, 12 blocks to get around? I mean, for that, these people might as well come out to Airline and go up to Ridgemark and then turn on Fairview. Why make unnecessary traffic? Why create unnecessary clogs when you have such a this project, this land fronts Fairview equally as it does Airline. So why not just tie into 2 points? That's usually the rule of thumb with any subdivision. You don't just want 1 point of ingress and egress. And while technically you don't have 1 point of ingress and egress, essentially, functionally, you do with Enterprise Road to Airline Highway on this. So not to take more of your time, but please, I would ask you to approve it, but add that condition of approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Jose Vargas.
Good evening.
I moved to Hollister 27 years ago from San Jose, and I lived in a residential area. But the thing that attracted me to Cielo Vista development was the half-acre lots, the fact that all the homes were the same. And I really enjoyed having a strong board that enforces CC&Rs. And that has made all the difference for the last 27 plus years that I lived there. My fear is that this does not comply with the same standards of what I'm used to, and it's going right in my backyard. Why have one of those homes that butts to that new development that's trying to be proposed? I don't see why we want to change zonings and allow increased density when we are having the road density problems, the school problems, the policing problems that we have in Hollister today. Growth is not a problem right now. We have plenty of growth in housing. The problem is the roads and the infrastructure and making sure that stays, in a good environment so that we, the residents, stay, can continue to enjoy Hollister and don't move out. And also, the quality that we have in Cielo Vista, that's going to degrade. Our home value is going to degrade as the density around us increases. And it's just going to hurt us. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mike in Shannon, German.
It's Mike German, is my wife Shannon. We moved here 13 years ago from Salinas. And the reason why we moved here, because we had kind of the country setting, larger lots, and live in Salinas, how compared Hollister to here, it was great to live here. And we knew when we bought the property, they were saying that the property next to us someday would be houses built on it and would be pretty much zoned the same as ours. So we were happy with that. Then we find out that as time goes on, that this project's going to come to our neighborhood next door to my house. I border really, before I had 3.5 houses, now I have one full house and two partial houses bordering my property, and which I am kind of glad that you do have it is going to be single-story houses, which is, I'm glad, because I didn't want to have 4 two-story houses looking down in my backyard. But the one problem I really have is with high-density housing, especially next to the park. I mean, I sit here for 45 minutes listening about Dunn Park, all the problems you guys are having here. And I have a feeling with all this high-density housing next to the park, we're going to have Dunn Park too. And that's the biggest concern I have is with that. And the other community I live in Salinas, we had stuff like this before. Then when you get the high-density housing, then we start getting graffiti. Then later on, they're selling drugs in the park. Then it just starts going downhill. And I'm really afraid that's going to happen in our neighborhood. So I'm thinking about the high density. If we can do something about that, get that. And another thing, there's access for the neighborhood into Cielo Vista. We don't want that. You can see it there. There's one piece right there. We don't want that.
Abram, do you see the access? Can you point that out, please?
Down right there.
The access to the project site?
No, Cielo Vista, into Cielo Vista.
The EVA.
This one here, Tierra del Sur, and this is Valle Verde.
Right there. Yeah, we're against that. And that's about all I have for now. Everything else has been taken care of.
Your reasons for being against the EVA? It's an emergency vehicle access right away. What's your objection?
Well, because everyone's been coming through our neighborhood.
Did you realize your front gate is unsecured? It's open on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no difference.
Well, there's a slight difference. It's
Okay.
closed.
All right. But the gate, the fences are open on both sides. You can see where people have been walking through there. It's open.
No, there's a gate.
There's a gate, but the sides are open. I went today. You can get right in your subdivision walking or riding a bike from Fairview Road.
Yeah, well,
It's open on both sides?
We don't want it from that side.
Okay. Okay, any other speakers?
Oh, yes. Larry Drexler.
Good evening, Larry Drexler. I live in Cielo Vista also, and I'm here to some for clarification and some for the inappropriate or the overuse of, once again, as the gentleman Bill talked about, was the traffic impact and only having one access into the park. I do support his actually suggestion of putting a second entrance off of Fairview, and that would help. That it will help relieve some of the traffic. But my point is, we're part of the county, and we moved to the county because of the larger lots and the more space. And I understand that as Hollister grows, eventually everything will become part of the city, or it could potentially. But with all the development that is going on around the city right now or in the county, I just don't understand why this has to be developed as the high density area next to a parcel or a group of homes that have been there for 30 years as part of the only housing development that was allowed to have or did have larger lots and bigger homes. So I guess I just didn't understand the need for or at least not the merging or the blending of the two communities, so that it did look like there wasn't such a separation between the county and the city. When this goes in, it's going to be, all right, you're going to drive up and right there, okay, that's where the city starts and this is where the county starts. Secondly, I had a question. The ward development timeline, when is that? Do you have an idea of when the timeline for the ward development is?
For the actual development?
Yeah.
That's the applicant is here and he can address that. My understanding is that within 5 years or so, but the applicant can probably address that a little bit more during the public hearing. Oh, ward homes. Yes, I know that phase 1 of their subdivision has been either in the works of being approved or has been approved. City engineer can speak a little bit more on that when directed by the.
Once again, it was along the lines of, if that's not going to be built for 5 years or 3 years or whatever, the Mimosa Street access is really not going to be effective for at least 4 or 5 more years. And if this development gets started or brought into place, at least the access off of the Fairview would help relieve a lot of that traffic, at least from the initial stages. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Marta Denise.
Good evening. My name is Marta Denise. I live at 421 Tierra del Sol, which is adjacent to the proposed Roberts Ranch development. Please know that I'm not here to stop progress. I understand the need for housing, and I support property owners having the opportunity to develop their land. I've lived in San Benito County for almost 60 years. In 1995, my husband and I purchased our home in Cielo Vista Estates. Our decision to live in Cielo Vista Estates was significantly influenced by the rural setting of the neighborhood's half-acre lots. We felt that our investment to purchase and maintain our property in the Cielo Vista neighborhood was sound because the acreage surrounding Cielo Vista was zoned so future development would be 1 to 2 dwellings per acre with lot configurations similar to ours. Although Roberts Ranch proposes half-acre parcels along Cielo Vista, more could be done. And I do acknowledge and appreciate the one-story houses that are part of the condition. I'm here to express concern that this development show a little bit more consideration towards an established neighborhood, Cielo Vista. I'm here to respectfully request further consideration of Roberts Ranch lots that are adjacent to Cielo Vista Estates. The new Roberts Ranch homeowners in the homes that border established half-acre Cielo Vista properties will be able to enjoy the benefits and added property value from the perception of a greater sized lot. Conversely, the property value of these adjacent Cielo Vista homes will be negatively impacted by homes that are close to the boundary. That's not fair to the existing Cielo Vista homeowners. Please take necessary steps to reduce this unfairness. The surrounding Roberts Ranch lots should be developed so that they more closely resemble the open setting of the Cielo Vista Estates lots, both in size and configuration. Thank you.
Thank you, Marta.
And Peter Hellman.
Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I'm Peter Hellman. I'm a managing partner with Hollister Enterprise, LLC, the applicant for Roberts Ranch. And I'm here with two of my partners. And I'm also here with Ann Hall, but I think she's been tired tromping back and forth to the podium, so I'll do the lifting here. First of all, I want to say how excited we are to be here. We've been working with county and city staff now for 4.5 years, and I'm sure they're tired of seeing me, and I've enjoyed working with them the entire time. But this is an exciting moment for us, so we're very, very happy to be here. I'd like to start with the big picture, which is the general plan. Roberts Ranch has been consistently general planned for residential development for at least 24 years, since at least 1993. The county's general plan, both the old one and the new one, would allow development of Roberts Ranch of up to 20 units per acre. That's an astonishing, some would say ridiculous, 1,093 units that could be approved under the county general plan. I don't think anybody contemplates that for Roberts Ranch. The city's general plan, as Abraham alluded, is low-density residential, which is up to 8 units per acre, which would allow 439 units on Roberts Ranch. The other planning, well, the most constraining land use policy is the now expired West of Fairview specific plan, which in its place would allow up to 287 residential units on Roberts Ranch. So Roberts Ranch with 227 units substantially and significantly is less dense than any of the planning constraints that have been effective on the property for at least 24 years. And one other thing that I'd like to emphasize that Abraham mentioned in his presentation is that it is designated in Hollister's general plan as a priority infill development area. I think that's important to remember. Next, I'd like to highlight some of the substantive changes we've made to the plan over the 4.5 years we've been working on it, one of which is not putting 1-acre lots along Cielo Vista. But in any case, we have, as has been mentioned numerous times now, we're proposing 1/4-acre lots around the entire perimeter of Cielo Vista. We've also self-imposed a 30-foot minimum rear yard setback. We've agreed to restrict all those homes to single-story. We eliminated all the 5,000 square foot lots that we previously had. About half of our lots at one time were 5,000 square foot lots, some of which backed up to Cielo Vista. Those are now, if they've all been replaced with minimum 6,000 square foot lots. And so in total, we think that Roberts Ranch provides a reasonable transition of density from the larger lots in the county to the smaller lots located within the city limits. We've also eliminated all the roadway connections that we previously had from Tierra del Sol and Valle Verde. We do still have them as pedestrian bicycle paseos and EVAs, and those are honestly, principally for the benefit of Cielo Vista for a number of reasons. Number one, they will provide a second and third emergency vehicle access route into Cielo Vista. Presently, they have only one. Also, it will provide direct, safe bicycle and pedestrian access both to Valley View Park and past Valley View Park all the way up to Sierra Vista School, ultimately. In addition, we've included, and I forget the lot numbers there, but it's at the end of Valle Verde. There's in that pedestrian corridor there, we've provided a sewer stub to our boundary that is also for the benefit of the Cielo Vista neighbors, because it's our understanding at some point in the future the state water quality regulators may come in and not be too excited about having a small package plant, sewage package plant. So this would provide the opportunity for Cielo Vista at some point in the future to feasibly connect into the city's water system if that ever becomes necessary. That will be up to them at some point in the future, but at least this would provide them with that opportunity. And finally, I'd also like to propose that between lots 23 and 24, where there's up on Fairview Road, there's been some discussion tonight about making that another access onto Fairview Road. We would like to propose to put another sewer stub there in response to some requests we received from other neighbors. Next, I'd like to, let me conclude on that just to say cumulatively, we think these are significant changes that we've incorporated into our plans voluntarily to try to be good neighbors and respect the interests of our neighbors and yet still retain the opportunity and right to develop our property. I'd also like to underscore some of the community benefits that Roberts Ranch provides. First, has been mentioned several times, we're going to double the size of the existing Valley View Park. It's going to now be a 5-acre park, which will conform to the designation as a neighborhood park in Hollister's general plan. So, secondly, as Abraham mentioned, we've agreed, or it was a condition of approval, and I think it's a smart one, that we go to the Park and Recreation Commission to work out what specific improvements are going to be in the park that we will build. I might add also that the plan that we've got before you that shows some park improvements was the Park and Recreation plan from probably 10 or 15 years ago that we've tried to interpret to the geography of the land as it sits now. But we're open and looking forward to the opportunity to work with the Parks and Recreation people to come up with a park plan that will really meet the community's needs. Second, we've talked about the linear park. Well, that linear park is going to run up Mimosa Street all the way to Union. You're going to turn left and you're going to go to Sierra Vista School. So kids will be able to ride their bicycles and walk safely on a Class 1 bike trail all the way from Roberts Ranch to Sierra Vista School, which also I think will be a benefit to our neighbors in Cielo Vista. I've already mentioned the 3 bicycle and pedestrian paseos and EVAs that will serve Cielo Vista. And I think it's also important to note that per the goals and policies of Hollister's general plan, I think that Roberts Ranch is providing a rich and diverse mix of housing types. I think it's important. I think I'm going to call them townhome-style multifamily units that are arrayed around the park. I think that's an important component of our plan. I think it is going to provide housing for an underserved segment of Hollister that makes too much money to qualify for the regulated affordable housing, but not quite enough money to afford to buy a new house. Also need to point out that Roberts Ranch is going to pay $15 million in impact fees, $4 million of which is going to go to traffic improvements. Road construction and other traffic improvements will be our contribution to the TIF funds, as well as $2.5 million for school impact fees. Last but not least, and pending the agreement of Caltrans, we're going to propose to build the signal at the corner of Airline Highway and Enterprise Road. I don't want to get out too far ahead of myself because I want to make sure that Caltrans goes along with this, but I think they will. because that particular intersection already triggers the traffic warrants that require signalization. So I think working with the engineering staff, I think we'll be able to cross that threshold. Finally, once again, I think I'd be remiss to stand here and not thank city staff. They've put up with me for 2.5 years now, and they've been terrific. They've been smart. They've been informed. And importantly, I think they've also served the communities. They've represented the city extremely well. In closing, I think Roberts Ranch is a great project. I really do. It conforms to the general plan, and it, in fact, underbuilds the densities that are available to us. We've made significant modifications to our plans to try our best to address the reasonable needs of our neighbors. We've included what I think are significant public benefits in the plan. And our plan has, I think, received the support of your staff, and we hope that it deserves your support as well. So we hope to get your favorable vote tonight, and of course, I'll be here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Peter.
I have a question, Peter.
No hard ones, please.
On the staff report, when they talked about signalization, it was talking like it was going to happen in the future. But you're saying you would make it part of your development to provide signalization on Enterprise Road?
Yes.
Okay. And just curious on the comments of the connection to Fairview, what would your response be to that?
To be honest, as Mr. Lee alluded, it would cost us a lot. But I'm going to leave that one to the city, frankly. This is going to be one of the Burger King aspects of the plan. Have it your way. On the whole, to be honest, I think that you're going to try to get traffic moving pretty quickly along Fairview Road. I think that's the goal, is to try to get traffic around and away from the east side of Hollister. And so I think to the extent that you add more traffic signals, I think that becomes problematic. But if it's a planning commission and city council's judgment that another intersection is appropriate there, I'll go along with it.
Okay. Great.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Please.
I've mentioned that I've heard that residents mention a few times regarding the houses around Sella Vista. Is it a condition that those are all single-story?
Commissioner Munzer, at this time, the condition reads that there should be no less than 1/4 acre, but the recommendation is to actually add that they're also single-story, because right now, per the zoning code, pending annexation, they can go up to 30 feet, which would be consistent with 2-story. But if it's a desire of the commission, we can put in the condition as well that they be single-story and also have a 30-foot rear yard setback.
Yep. And also, Commissioner Munzer, I think my testimony becomes part of the public record, and we're prepared to commit to it tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to probably do that. Single story. I'm very strong on that.
I heard it mentioned by the residents, but I hadn't officially heard.
Yeah, they're offering to do it,
Sure
yes.
they were
On board with it?
that it was agreed upon.
Okay.
Done deal.
Along those quarter acre sites that border.
The ones that are bordering Cielo Vista.
There are 28 lots
So
that
they're
border
going to
Cielo,
have they're going to have 2-story homes, but these are going to be 1-story.
and that's fine with us.
Okay.
Because honestly,
You're the new guy.
We're the new guy. We're responsible for respecting the rights of the reasonable requests of our neighbors. And at the same time, I'll tell you that I think that the strongest part of the market will be for single-story homes on those lots anyway. So something we're happy to do.
I do have a question, Commissioner.
Go ahead.
So on the 32-foot dedication along Fairview, is that an improved dedication? So we would ultimately be looking at that frontage to look very similar to what the frontage of Santana Ranch, with the sidewalk, sound wall, and additional. Is that an improved 32-foot dedication?
Yes and yes. The Award Homes project is conditioned to build the improvements along Fairview Road, including in front of our project.
Okay.
And to respond to the comment about Award Homes and their timing, We've been in contact with them recently, and based on my conversations with them, I believe that their project is going to get started very soon, at least their Phase 1B, which will trigger those improvements in front of our property. And so, yes, that's a complete sound wall. Right now, the plans show a monolithic sidewalk along Fairview Road there, along our frontage, whereas it's a meandering sidewalk in front of Ward homes. And frankly, it's one of the things that I need to address with the engineering staff, because I suspect that you're going to want the meandering sidewalk in front of our frontage as well. So we need to work that out with ourselves and Ward homes. It's one of the issues that we're discussing with them.
Okay, anybody else before I close the public hearing? Questions? Mr. Hellman? Thank you, Peter.
No, you're welcome.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have no more comments from the public. We'll close the public hearing at 9:14 and bring it back to commission level for further comment. Any questions? Okay, I'll comment. This is not an incompatible use for Cielo Vista. These are residential homes that are going to be nice homes. They don't build bad homes anymore. They're expensive. They want to maintain the property. So these are more homes. It's not a mixed use like a skate park going into a residential area. So it is a compatible use. I think that the single story lots, they're not going to see into your backyard. So that's a moot case. Also, I noticed today you have very mature landscaping in your backyard. For the most part, you got a lot of landscape back there. There's no way a single-story home at 30 feet away from the rear yard, and they're facing the other way, is going to see anything in your yards. It's not going to happen. I don't know. I know you just sounds like me like some of you don't want neighbors, and that's just not realistic. But we just want to put a good product out there. And I feel like the developers worked. Going to get a brand new signal right there. And also, I got to tell you that the city and county are not in the business of building roads. Guess how we get them? We develop. The developers put in the roads, almost all the roads. The county doesn't have any money. So how do you think Fairview Road's going to get improved? Not from the county, that's obvious. So you have the developers that are going to put in your right-of-ways and your sidewalks and your curb and gutter. Otherwise, that'll never get done. It's not going to happen. The county doesn't have any money. So I just don't understand what the fear is with having a house behind you that's so far away. I can't grasp around. It's not going to come through your subdivision. You made it clear you don't want anybody in there, and they're not going to be in there. So those are my comments.
I have a few comments also, Madam Chair. This is, we talk about high density. Well, it's high density compared to Cielo Vista. It's low density in the city. I mean, it's city low density, and the developer is building a lot of less homes than they could have based on that zoning land use. I like variety of lot sizes. I think that, that's what creates sustainability in neighborhoods, to have a multifamily component within that development. Gives choices. And also the developer has shown good faith. He's been communicating and trying to do what he can to mitigate some of these issues. I like how he's expanded the park. I like the linear park aspect. I think the architectural design, it looks good to me. So these are some of the. I think there's a lot of good features on this project, and it does comply with the general plan. It's certainly it is compatible with the land use. So those are my comments.
My comments again. I agree with the variety of the lot sizes, and I commend the developer for actually working with the various requests, and including tonight talking about entertaining the connection onto Fairview via the Old Ranch Road. I mean, he's accommodating multiple requests this evening, so commend him for that. But overall, I think it's a great product. Those are my comments.
I have, yeah. I just want to say is just coming out to the commission, but I did review the information, and I did call Abraham about some information, et cetera, and also received that information from other folks. And I do applaud you for the 35 multifamily units, because folks need to be able to live, they work here, and they need to afford to live somewhere. And I think that looking at the comments also from the folks that wrote letters concerning the traffic, yes, traffic is a problem in our community, but I think that I'm going to look at, also somebody mentioned it, that putting pressure on Caltrans to, step up to the plate and deal with it and make sure we have a good traffic flow, because we are bottlenecked in this community. There's only two ways out of this community, and that needs to be dealt with. But anyway, and then also I like that, because when I saw the plan, it's part of the infill, which is real good. It's not, we're not looking at 2,000 homes. We're looking at 195, which includes 35, I'm assuming. And so I definitely support the project for that. And also the park. The park looks like it's going to be an opportunity to also enhance the park and make it more usable. I'm pretty sure it's used right now by the families. I haven't been there for a while, but when I used to go, there was always families with adults there, and it doesn't look like it's going to be. I can't see it being a deterioration like other parks for whatever reason. But anyway,
because the housing is expensive.
Yes, it is. So anyway, I just wanted to say those few words, and I do support the project for those reasons. And I think that we need to move forward, and people need to live somewhere. And I think in order for us to have housing, that also would affect businesses coming in and bringing business to the community, which you desperately need. All of us know that. We need more, business to come in and provide services that we can use instead of going out of town, and also, provide jobs for our local community, which is so much needed. I think I've been down, everybody knows the traffic going out of here, and it's amazing about everybody going to work outside of the community. But we also need to look at the people that are still living here and able to have a job here, and they need a place to live. So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Anything to add? Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair Lenore, I think most of the questions were answered. If you would like, the city engineers want to come and respond to the comment regarding the Old Ranch suggestion of the access there, and possibly the project to the north's status of.
Right. Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to know the plans for Fairview Road.
Good evening. Okay, the plan for Fairview Road, as you just requested information on, is Award Homes project to the north is going to be doing significant improvements to Fairview Road. Fairview Road will be curb gutter sidewalk. They'll extend their improvements at least to the center of the road. The reason why the monolithic sidewalk was shown that's fronting the Roberts Ranch project on Fairview Road was because Award Homes was required to connect Cielo Vista to its project. Because of right-of-way restrictions, the only way to get a sidewalk in was to do monolithic. With this project putting in a meandering walk, will be the preferred solution to sidewalk access, pedestrian access, and it will be the final input. The timing for Award Homes is that they are progressing with their plan check. Their plan check for improvement plans and final maps are 95%, and we're expecting that they will start improvements in in the spring, summer of this 2018. As far as taking access and providing direct access to Fairview Road, that is not a recommended improvement. They are showing the EVA, pedestrian access, utility easement. They are planning on putting a sewer line through that utility easement. The problem with providing access at that point is a couple things. One is the location of traffic signals and intersections on Fairview Road. An intersection like this, in order to make it a safe intersection, would most likely require a signal be put in there. With a signal being put in there, one at Union, and there possibly may be a signal put in on at the entrance to Cielo Vista, and with the future signal that will most likely be put in at Airline Highway and Fairview Road, there is just going to be too many signalized intersections. It will become a road that won't be allowing traffic to flow. There'll be a lot of stops. We'll be getting a lot of complaints. Another reason for not putting that access in, as has been requested, is that it will be a very inconvenient and burdensome to the people that live on there. We already do everything we can, and this is an example. This subdivision is an example of providing traffic calming strategies in the design. If we were to allow that access off of Fairview into Roberts Ranch, we will get cut through traffic. We will get traffic that would most likely be speeding more than what they get. We'll be getting traffic that will want to bypass the Union Road intersection and taking the Mimosa Street to get into the Valley View subdivision. So you're going to be getting a lot more cut-through traffic, and that's something that we work really hard to eliminate in many existing neighborhoods. So the connection there is not recommended, and we feel the engineering department feels very strong about not having that access. Pedestrian access, bike access, that's not a problem. That works. It helps provide for circulation and connectivity to the subdivision. The EVAs and pedestrian access and bike access into the Cielo Vista, that's part of our general plan, actually providing connectivity to that subdivision, which is a general plan policy. So with that, if I'm hoping that answers your questions, and if you have any other questions, please, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you.
Thank you, David,
for outlining that for us.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair.
And go.
I have a question regarding the EVAs.
Sure.
Is there anything that keeps Cielo Vista from putting private gates up, that they would have access from their side through those gates and use those roads if they wanted, but it also provides the security that they have gone above and beyond for their own private gate for their HOA?
Certainly, they can put private gates in. Yeah, it's an emergency vehicle access. They will be gates that would have to be provided with Knox boxes so that fire or police can get through there. The tragedy would be if there's a incident that clogs up the entrance to Cielo Vista, and somebody else is having a medical emergency, and the ambulance or whoever it may be can't get to that person because the EVA's wouldn't be there. So they would be able to access that subdivision, the existing subdivision, by going through the EVA. They would open the gates. They would either drive through, or depending on where it's at, they may just go through on foot. But most likely they would drive the ambulance through. Most likely it wouldn't be a fire truck, but it could be. And they would they would allow that would allow for emergency response. If you look at the site layout, it's very clear that there was an intent that the through road, as where the arrow is now, that road was intended to go through to future development. They're not putting or providing for a road, any through access. They are providing just for an EVA, emergency vehicle access there. If this was a city subdivision, the Cielo Vista, we most likely would have required them to actually make that road connection. So we've listened to what Cielo Vista has said, and we're allowing just the EVA there. I think it's something that is very clear on the map for both that one and the one at the north, that road was originally intended to go through to future developments.
But they could put the gate.
Yes. The gate would be a gate would be there. They would be most likely have to provide a Knox box so that the fire can gain access.
I don't have any problem with that. I just want the emergency vehicles to have access.
Certainly.
Any other comments? Questions?
I'm good.
So I'm going to entertain a motion on the resolution. And I believe we're going to start with, did I get these right? We're going to start with the resolution recommending certification to the City of Hollister City Council and the mitigation monitoring program.
Correct.
Resolution number 24, if anybody's inclined. I make a motion that we approve Resolution PC, Resolution number 2017-24, recommending certification to the City of Hollister City Council and adoption of the mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Roberts Ranch subdivision.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay. Motion carries unanimously. So we're going to also consider Planning Commission Resolution 2017-25. It's going to recommend approval to the City of Hollister City Council to pre-zone the 53.35 acres identified as San Benito County to open space, public, and to low-density residential on the remaining 50.81 acres.
I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Okay. Second, we have a motion and a second to adopt PC Resolution 2017-25, recommending approval of the pre-zoning to the City Council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No? Nay? Okay. Unanimous. We have a Planning Commission Resolution PC 2017-26 for the approval of a tentative map, a use permit, and a site and architectural for 227 residential lots, including 35 multifamily on 14 lots, 192 single-family lots, with a dedication of 2.54 acres for parkland, a linear park construction between Mimosa and Valley View, 2 stormwater detention facilities, utility easements, with pedestrian connections to Fairview Road, Valle Verde and Tierra del Sol.
Madam Chair, also with the amendments to condition number 67,
Yes.
and also to address that the
single lots,
single
and then
family,
the
single
67
story.
is the staging of the development at 165
Correct.
homes prior to. Then they have to start the multifamily.
Correct.
And it all needs to be final at the same time. Correct.
Correct.
With
Correct.
those,
Or multifamily.
If anybody
right.
wants to make the motion, I just read it out for you. That's all.
Who wants to make the motion? Sir? Okay, I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Well, we got a for conditional use permit for the variation of the for the multifamily?
It was all included
Was that
in the
all?
last one.
That
That
was
was-
included? Okay.
Tenant maps, CUP, and
Are we
SNA,
done?
and I want to
Okay.
thank everybody for coming and commenting. I really think that, I'm glad that you came, and I think the developer worked with you, so I'm hoping that it does turn out a nice product.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
It'll
much.
be nice. You're very welcome.
Nice to see you,
Congratulations.
Marta. Nice to see you.
Congratulations.
Boy, I'm gonna be on Facebook. Oh, man, I'm gonna be on
The
Facebook.
meeting closed already?
Hang on, Seth, we're not done.
Second.
I know it's getting late, so I'll move it along.
We're not done.
Okay, here we go.
I got a gig to play tomorrow. Too.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get
so,
tired.
okay, that concludes our public hearings. We already did new business item number 1. So we're going to have a discussion now on the potential amendment to Public Facilities Zoning District. It wasn't a big deal. Let's see, let me get to it. We'll have a report?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The new business item number 2 is essentially a request for the Planning Commission to discuss tonight and provide us with input or direction in the form of a concession. We're not requiring action taken from you tonight, just direction. Essentially, we received an inquiry. The City of Hollister's Development Services staff received an inquiry. A gentleman would like to actually come downtown to San Benito Street and open up a wine tasting facility. We've actually received the ABC license. We've approved that. We've signed the zoning affidavit. So
For where?
downtown, I think it's 650 San Benito Street, right across the street from Vets.
Oh, yes, I read about it.
Yeah. So really exciting. Really, it meets the downtown zoning requirements. It's a good opportunity for the city of Hollister. The same gentleman approached the city and also had a discussion with the city council about the possibility of he's very well versed when it comes to wine making, and so he asked about the possibility of using public facility designated zones in the city of Hollister. Particularly, he chose Park Hill, and particularly using the areas, the former structures of where we were before. Madam Chair Lenora, you worked there for a long time.
20 years.
And so there are existing buildings out there that are essentially underutilized. Some of those buildings are being used for storage at the moment. Just made the change about 2-3 years ago to downtown for most of us. And so what the gentleman would like to do is possibly use the building for wine pairing classes, classes to teach the public and to make wine, and possibly even actually help them and actually provide it on site, and essentially maybe use some of the facilities like the garage under buildings.
Building D. Were we only talking about Building D?
Actually, the whole buildings.
whole
It would,
thing?
yeah. At this time, because it's all under public facilities, and it would be we can't single out a site, so it would be public facilities zoning district. So, with the consensus of the Planning Commission, what we can do is, if you like the idea, at this time that's actually not permitted in the public facility for the having classes, having a commercial use in the public facility. However, I don't think the city, and we can discuss it further, but the recommendation is not just to open it to commercial uses. The recommendation would be to open it in for certain commercial uses such as classes, with a conditional use permit that would be obtained either through Planning Commission or the City Council. We would require that they provide an application to us, and then we would process it accordingly if it's a direction of the Planning Commission. But at this time, staff is requesting that the Planning Commission provide us consensus that they are in favor of moving forward with this, and then we would go back, draft a amendment to the Public Facilities District, bring back to you that recommendation for you to recommend to the City Council, and then eventually require City Council adoption of the zoning ordinance if that is the will of the Commission. So with that, if I'm not missing anything else, Renee, that... Very well. So with that, staff recommends discussion from Planning Commission and the direction to staff in the form of a consensus. If you would like for us to bring it back at a future time, once we discuss it more in detail, with the formal recommendation for the Public Facilities Amendment to the City Council. Any questions to staff?
I'll caution that I would like to make sure whatever you're going to propose is, it's non-residential, obviously. I don't want it impacting the houses that are up there on that little court. You got Building D, the underneath warehouse. It's got a house right there behind it. So because they're different uses, then I want to make sure that it's compatible. It's no impact there, no manufacturing anything. So it'll be interesting to see any projects that you bring. But I just want to point that out, that you are abutting residential.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
But you're talking about wine classes, right?
Wine classes and no manufacturing, but possibly teaching the production of actually making wine for somebody to learn how to make wine, and so that's another aspect to it.
I don't have a problem with that. I don't see it being a negative impact to the surrounding residential properties. You know, just teaching.
I move the consensus for myself that we would consider something if you brought it forward.
Make use of that facility. Just
Yeah, I agree with
analyze.
going forward with that beginning process.
Very well.
And then we'll have every opportunity to review it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Right, yes.
Okay, so you have your consensus.
Thank you so much.
All right, so old business, none. Planning department reports. Planning department reports.
There are none at this time, Madam Chair Lenore.
Planning commission reports.
I have not a report, but I just want to welcome Pauline Valdivia, a great lady that I know.
Thank you.
And Seth Munzer to the Planning Commission. And I also want to thank Chris Alvarez for all his service to the Planning Commission. And I'm going to miss Chris myself. I mean, he was very adamant about green spaces within the urban environment, getting the noticing out, having community workshops on some of the larger developments.
Hold you to that.
And gosh, hey, Chris, you know, if you
absolutely
watching this on television, thank you so much for all your service. Believe me, you were just a great commissioner.
Very much, and I'll miss him because I sat by him. Hey, but you guys, welcome. Welcome. Nice to see a new young face.
Yeah.
Pauline's been there, done that. That's okay.
Again.
Hey, welcome. I really appreciate you coming on here, both of you. I know we're going to do good things.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 9:41. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we just get
Okay.
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much.